Good evening. We are going to call the second regular November meeting of the Verona Zoning Board of Adjustment this month to order at 7:33 p.m. If you would, please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, would you please read the notice of this meeting and call the roll?
The notice requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act have been satisfied with respect to this meeting of the Township of Verona Board of Adjustment, which is being held in person in the ballroom of the Verona Community Center located at 880 Bloomfield Avenue, Verona. The time and date of this meeting were included in the annual meeting notice posted in the Community Center and sent to the official newspapers of the Township, the Verona Cedar Grove Times, and the Star Ledger, at least 48 hours preceding the start time of this meeting. The agenda and instructions of how to comment will be provided at the appropriate time. All meetings are being recorded. Those wishing to speak during any public comment period should only provide their name and municipality. Street addresses are not required. Please be advised that should a member of the public choose to state their street address, it will not be redacted from this recording. Dr. Reese? Here. Mr. Telly absent. Dr. Cortez?
Here.
Mr. Ryan?
Here.
Mrs. Murphy-Braddock's absent. Mrs. DiBartolo? Here. Mr. Mathewson?
Here.
Vice Chair Weston?
Here.
Chair McKinley?
Here.
Board Attorney Mr. Mascara?
Here.
And joining us, Engineer Mike Caggiano and Serafine Tanwar, and our zoning official.
Okay. Thank you. Let's start with some general information. This board deals with the issuance of variances from the Verona zoning ordinance. That ordinance establishes specific requirements for the land area in the township and regulates not only the uses permitted, but the size of the lots, setbacks required, parking signs, conditional uses, and numerous other such regulations. An applicant is never entitled to a variance. Applicants must meet specific criteria contained in the state municipal land use law by satisfying certain legal standards of proof. The burden is on the applicants to show that they should be granted the specific relief requested. Depending on the type of variance requested, applicants will need to prove special reasons, undue hardship, a balance of benefits, and other criteria. These are legal proceedings. Public meeting notices have been published, neighbors have been notified, applicants and their representatives will provide sworn testimony and be subject to cross-examination. Any action this board takes at this meeting will be memorialized in a resolution document prepared by our legal counsel that will be reviewed and adopted typically at our next regular meeting. At that time, any variances granted will become effective. That said, we are a board that conducts its business in a fairly informal manner. Applicants are sworn in, tell us what they want to do with their property and what they are asking the board to do. Board members will question witnesses, and then members of the public may question those witnesses. At the conclusion of the testimony, members of the public may make a statement regarding the application. After closing the public portion of the application, the board will deliberate and render a decision. Item E on our agenda, approval of minutes. We have none since we just met last week. Item F, resolutions. We have resolution 2024-18 referencing 30 Pompton Avenue. Everyone should have received the rather lengthy resolution concerning the property on Pompton Ave.
Is this just for the site plan approval, or is this for the whole application, or is it divided?
The site plan approval,
Okay.
the use of site plan, but not the sign.
Okay, there's one thing I know that we had mentioned. There's those entry signs that were going in by the entrance to the lots. And the one on Claremont, we specifically stated that that one cannot be illuminated.
They, did they not, they were called directional sign, were they the directional sign?
Yeah,
It's content in there saying that they did not apply for the direction, that they withdrew the
okay,
directional sign.
all right.
Is anyone prepared to make a motion to accept this resolution?
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2024-18.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Should we have a roll call vote for this one?
Dr. Cortez,
Yes?
Mr. Ryan,
Yes.
Mrs. G. Bartolo,
She cannot vote. She voted no.
Right. I was a no.
Mr. Mathewson,
Yeah,
Vice Chair Weston,
Yes.
Chair McKinley.
I was also a no.
You were on the,
Oh, on the one.
you were no on the sign,
good.
the sign is.
Yes. By my count, that motion passed.
It did.
So we should list you as an aye on this resolution, correct? Okay. Now, I'm not, it was a long application, as we all know.
Yes, it was. Okay, so the resolution has passed. On to item G on the agenda, new business. The first application under new business is 2024-17, 29 Otsego Road. If you'd be so kind as to come and stand, council will swear you in, then you may be seated.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth?
Yes.
Can you state the full name and address for the record?
Jerry DeYoung, 29 Otsego Road.
Taylor Paxton, 29 Otsego.
Thank you.
Please be seated. I am going to turn the chair over to the vice chair because this is an application that is within 200 feet of the property that I own.
I'd just like to remind everyone to please press the button when you're speaking to turn the microphones on, press them again to turn them off so that we can record everything.
Council was noticed properly served.
Notice is proper. All the housekeeping is in order, so they are permitted to proceed.
Great, thank you. So please state your name, and do they need to be sworn in?
They did,
Oh,
they did
sorry.
that.
So can you please tell us what you'd like to do with your property and why you're here before us today?
First of all, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
For our property, we are trying to have a fence put in. We do have a corner lot, so the issue is the variance for the fence on the property line, about 10 feet.
Okay, so can you describe where you'd like to put the fence? I know that there was a few different sections.
We'd like to,
Sir, when you click this, just click it, it's on, and then click it and it's off.
gotcha, sorry about that.
We'd like to put the fence along the Lanning Avenue side of our property.
is that the only location? Because I'm looking at the drawing here and you have looks like a couple other lines pointed out to other fences.
That fence is, and then there's going to be, we want to like put one behind our garage to box in the rear of the property, and then against the front of our house, or the side of our house, next door neighbor's existing fence, the box in the front as well.
Is the only one the variance, the one that's along Lanning?
Yes, sir.
And that fence will be 6 feet going the length of the property, I guess, from approximately the middle of the house to the garage?
That is correct. 6 feet, I understand, is the max. We're willing to lower it if need be, depending on the council and their approval.
Tell us what type of a fence that you're putting up, that you propose to put up.
It's a black aluminum fence. I have pictures of it in our book, if you need to see it.
Is it part of your package here or no?
That I'm not 100% sure on.
Okay.
There, across, may I ask a question? Across the street from you, there is a white fence that goes in front of on the side of their property. Is your black fence similar to that fence across the street that's white? That type of a fence?
No, ma'am. That's vinyl. We're doing aluminum, has a post every 3 or 4 inches. So it's completely see-through. It's just to keep our dog in.
And do you have photographs of that for us to see?
Yes.
I do live not far from your property, full disclosure, in Elmwood, so I frequently go by your corner. And I know that your property, am I correct, it's on grade there pretty much too? When you walk down Lanning, you can almost just like walk right into the back of your house, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Can I please approach to show a picture?
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, that's going to be A1. And can you describe what we're going to see and the pictures that you took or the whole pamphlet?
A picture being described, that's going to be described is just going to be a picture of the fence that we're trying to put in.
Oh, that's a...
The pamphlet from the company, yes.
Thank you.
Just pass it on.
Yes, sir.
So this is black aluminum.
And this is more or less what it would look like.
There's a couple different designs. I circled all that.
This is the one that you're looking to eat to?
Can I look at, can I answer any questions?
Great.
Will you be removing any shrubs or trees to install the fence?
No, sir. The fence is actually going behind some of the shrubs that you see present.
And the fence that's along your neighbors on Otsego, you're just going to tie into that fence?
Yes, sir.
You have existing shrubs there,
Yes,
correct?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And are you planning on putting this fence in front of those shrubs, or are you going to start the fence at where the shrubs end and then bring it to the front of your house?
The fence is going to start at the front of the house and go behind those shrubs, the existing shrubs, to the back of the property line. towards the
So
garage.
am I to assume that you're asking for variance so that you can put this fence all the way to Otsego, all the way along the Lanning property line?
No, ma'am.
Okay,
It's
help me out.
stopping in the back, by the patio.
Okay, all right.
So you're going from the back of the house to where the patio is, if I can follow up on Ms. Reese's question, to the back property, and then you're turning it around again on a 90-degree angle towards the, when it ends towards the back there. You're also putting an adjacent fence along the back of the property?
Yes. It's going to come off the side of the house, along the patio, behind the bushes, and then stop at the garage. And then we're using the garage as a existing, fence.
So
and then
that's going to
another
be,
fence
that's my
behind it.
question. That's going to be the termination so that your pets or whatever can't get out.
Yes, sir.
But the fence is going to basically abut the garage at that point?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
And are you planning on putting shrubs on either side of that new fencing to add on to the hedging that's there now?
No, ma'am.
Why not?
I haven't thought of that yet.
Okay. More privacy, though. And
I agree.
And it would bring greenery to that area there.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions from board members?
Do you park in your garage?
My wife does. I have a parking pass for the street for my vehicle.
So if you were to park in your garage, you would go through the gate, the proposed gate that's at that corner there, and through the yard? Is that how you would access the house?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, the other part of the variance is 6 foot high. Why you say you won't go below 6 feet?
Can you repeat that question?
The other part of the variance is being 6 foot high. So I know you mentioned you didn't want to go below 6 feet. Why 6 feet?
I know 6 feet's the highest, and if it doesn't go, and if, don't grant 6 foot, I was willing to work with you guys to come down if need be.
Okay.
Your garage front, your garage, if I'm looking at the diagram correctly, it fronts on to Lanning though, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I will say as I drove there, that the hedges that are there are well kept and they're pleasing to the eye. And I think that if you would consider bringing hedges further down, I think it would be equally as pleasing to the eye, and you might want to consider that.
Thank you, and I will note that.
But also I noted that there's patio there with, as it shows here, and you have tables and chairs there. And I would suggest that more shrubbery would give you greater privacy and also be pleasing, to the neighbors.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. DeYoung, you're saying yes, if the board were going to grant this application, you'd agree to that as a condition, you would continue the shrubbery towards Otsego?
Yes, sir.
And how far would the shrubbery to go to the edge of the fence where it's drawn, where the fence is perpendicular to Lanning?
asking me?
Yeah, is that? Well, you would.
Right, to where where he's putting, he's bringing the fence further down and then bringing it over to the back of the house and covering the patio.
Okay.
And my recommendation would be that he add a shrubbery there as well. I just think that the shrubbery that he has there is very, very nice, very well kept, and it might be more accepting and pleasurable to see if you brought the shrubbery further down.
Yes, ma'am.
And since it's an open fence, to Dr. Reese's point, it would also give you more privacy at some point when the shrubbery got a little taller, where your patio is. And I'm looking, and I'm assuming here, you're keeping the existing tree, am I correct about that? There's a tree shown.
That is correct.
Okay, at the end of the hedge line.
The fence will be going in between the tree and the bushes to go behind.
You're going to
On a diagonal,
around
yeah.
the tree and then back there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, try not to remove any of the shrubbery or bushes.
Is that the dogwood tree that the environmental commission mentioned?
Yes.
Are there any other questions from board members? Okay, is there any member of the public who has a question for the applicant? Please state your name.
Verona, New Jersey. Didn't find any of these. I don't really have a question. I just want to make a statement in support of this. That's last.
Not the time.
Okay.
You'll have an opportunity.
All right.
Just wait about 10 seconds. All right, would anybody else like to have a question for the applicant? Okay, seeing none, is there any member of the public who would like to make a statement in this matter? Paul knows your feet. I wanted to now.
Okay, Paul Petrangeli, Verona. Basically, I'd like to say I hang out with his neighbor a lot. He lives right there off a landing. The kids can walk right into his backyard, right into his property. I know he has a dog. It would make perfect sense. And to your point about the shrubbery, you do have a 4-foot vinyl fence across the street with the shrubbery is planted inside the fence. So it's not really shrubbery you don't see. So if that is a requirement, it is a huge cost for bushes to run down there. So to me, it's either or with the shrubbery, but I believe the fence is very much needed.
Thank you. Is there any other member of the public who would like to make a statement in this matter? Nope. Seeing none, I'll open up to the board for deliberations.
I think we're moving towards more greenery as opposed to less environmentally sound kind of structures. And that's why I've made that recommendation. I think as fences go up, we want more landscape, more greenery there.
Ma'am, I completely agree. We just moved in not even a year ago yet, so we're still working on things. Like I said, we just rescued this puppy, so I want to keep him in the yard, you know?
Mr. Macera, to follow up on Dr. Reese's point, could we approve this with a condition that the edge line be extended, to the end of where the house is or where the fence is
Yes,
supposed to
where the
go?
perpendicular line,
Yeah.
of the fence from the house, that some kind of shrubbery, I think the applicant had agreed to do that, some kind of shrubbery like boxwoods or something that would take a little bit of time to grow, but we
Right.
certainly can't expect them.
No. that's-
Arborvitae, I don't know if that's acceptable or not, but it's going to take a while for it to grow. We realize that, but it will just be greenery.
And I believe
I understand.
the Verona Shade Tree Commission and/or the Environmental Commission does have a list of preferred shrubs, if you would, I would strongly suggest that you consult with them, before you do any planting, so that it basically, a lot of non-native species have been planted in this town over the years, and they've caused problems, down the line. And I'm sure there's enough that's perfectly acceptable for you to pick from, just to be on the safe side.
I understand.
In general, I don't have any issues with this application. I think it makes a whole lot of sense. You're very much on the stage right there, and this would at least give some privacy. I do take a little bit of issue with the height, though. I'm not a huge fan. I mean, it's very intrusive. All of a sudden, it's 6 foot, even if it is behind the hedges there. So I would probably vote in favor of this, which, by the way, thank you for aluminum. I can't stand vinyl. I'm sorry if anybody has vinyl, but I do, it is not legal in other municipalities for a reason. But it's obviously a bigger cost to do aluminum, so thanks for that. But just the height, I think, is a little bit troublesome for me.
You might keep deer out, the height, I don't know, but have you had a deer issue with all of that?
They can jump that high.
There is plenty of deer in the backyard when I wake up at 4:30 to take the dog out. There's plenty of deer he tries to chase.
So that really wouldn't mitigate that problem.
It would. It was like I said, 6 is the highest that we can go. I figured go shoot for the stars and see what you guys recommend.
So, Christie, do you have a recommendation on a height?
I'd be comfortable. I'd be more comfortable with 4. It's just a little bit more of an in scale of the neighborhood than 6. 6 is just really.
Would you agree to a 4-foot high fence?
I believe 4 would be fine. Do you agree?
1 year yesterday, I'm learning.
Happy wife, happy life. Mr. Chairman, can I make a motion to approve the variance with the stipulation that the fence be 4 foot high and the bushes be extended along the fence line?
I think that's fair, but I just want to give the opportunity for any other board members
Sure.
if they want to add any further comments.
Yeah, I was kind of on board. I mean, I think that the fence choice is correct. I mean, I really am much more amenable to that style of fence, so, great choice on that one. Honestly, same on the 6 foot high, not necessarily just because of the height of it. I think the style of fence that you chose, I think at that height actually kind of defeats the purpose of the style of it. I think it starts to look, a little bit more impactful at that point. Again, not knowing the type of dog you have, but yeah, unless it's a 4-foot dog, which some are. But no, I really do think that it's appropriate and just on board with the recommendations that were made so far. No, that's on my point.
Can I say one more thing? I understand the 6 foot is super high. Our dog is a boxer. They do jump pretty high as well. I was wondering maybe if we can compromise at 5, if that's fine. It's up to you guys. I'm just trying to not lose my dog. And
I'm fine with 5 feet.
Yeah, I'm fine with 5 as well. And I do understand like what Paul's saying over there, that the being forced to add the shrubs for the fence there. I'm okay with putting in the fence, then maybe a time frame or anything like that if we deem it necessary in the future. But I don't know if we have to make that as a regulatory for this type of element. Like if they're putting something of noise or something like that, I know we've added shrubbery for stuff for that, but this is something we haven't done before.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you, Paul. I don't necessarily know that the shrubbery is more of kind of a rush for me. The only reason I would suggest it is only because of the amount of traffic that you get on Lanning. More so, if the purpose is for the dog, just more to like kind of visually block the amount of traffic that you get. But I'm not as inclined to put that as kind of a one with the other kind of thing. Like, so that's kind of where I'm pressed on that one. I think that a 5-foot fence is fine. I've seen 6-foot fences of this style, and they actually defeat the positive look of this style of fence. And it actually looks more, I hate to say it, but more jailhouse or whatever. But 5 and under look really, really nice. So, you know, that's my challenge with the shrubbery is that I just hate to kind of tie the two together because of the cost associated.
So, Council, your advice, we have a little bit of a different opinion from board members on the condition.
Yes, Mr. Weston, I think you should hold the board to see who is inclined. I think it's clear that people have in their minds approved the fence. It's just a matter of 4 feet, 5 feet. So I think, I think 5 was agreed upon. But then as far as the shrubbery goes, we can hold the board to see whether that the shrubbery would be a condition of approval.
Can I point out 2 things about the shrubs? One is that they would actually offer a little bit more privacy for your patio, which might be nice. But so we have to represent the public. So we're looking at this from like the other side of the street, right? So we're going to see a little bit more fence if they don't put the shrubs in. And I think that's what Dr. Reese is getting at. Now you can pull.
Okay, so quick poll. If we want to condition with shrubs, Dr. Cortez, we'll start with you.
And the only framework is that it's immediately, like, the shrubs have to go in with the construction of the fence.
I believe they get up to like a year or so.
Give time before the final approval by the town is given, but.
You can't plant until the spring
Yeah.
anyway.
We're not, I don't think anyone's suggesting they can't put the fence up before the shrubs are. I don't think that was Dr. Reese's intention, or mine, when I said that.
Just the building department, construction department does not review the installation of fences.
Oh, okay. I know that. Thank you. So you do, that's another one of your rules?
Once I say on paper, I'm trusting people.
All right, good, quick poll. Condition with shrubs or no?
Yes.
No.
No, I'm still no.
Dr. Reese?
The question was.
Do you want to condition to have the shrubs?
Yes, I do.
5 feet with shrubs.
All right, so I'll say yes with the shrubs with a year or so to a year to implement. So I will entertain a motion to approve application 2024-17 with the 5-foot high and the condition of adding the shrubs.
I'll second it. I'll make the first motion.
I'll second.
We'll move to a roll call vote.
Dr. Reese?
Yes.
Dr. Cortez?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mrs. DiBartolo?
Yes.
Mr. Mathewson?
Yes.
Vice Chair Weston?
Yes. Congratulations. Best of luck on the project.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. DeYoung, one thing, I need to identify the fence that you were going to build. Can you just tell me where it's located in that manual or in that?
And this?
Yeah, because I think you had pointed to one.
Maybe it's circled, whatever it is.
Does it have a name or does it have?
I believe the name is Contemporary E2.
Contemporary E2?
Yes.
And who's the manufacturer?
Vanguard aluminum fences.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Do you need a copy of that containing?
Oh, that's going to be A1, so I think you need to leave that with Kevin.
That's all. I don't think they're going to personal. That's why I'm sure it's no problem. Yeah, exactly. You have it already.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Best of luck. Okay, we will re-welcome our chairman back to the dais. All right, we will continue at this point with application 2024-19, 45 Woodland Avenue. If the applicants would please come to the front, and our council will swear you in.
I think that it works. Oh.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth? And can you state your name and address for the record?
Peter Malenga, 45 Woodland Ave.
Council, we have,
I'm sorry, yes, notice is proper, the application is complete, and the applicant may proceed.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm Alan Tremulak, appearing on behalf of the applicant Peter Malanga. It's nice to be back in Verona. This is an application involving 45 Woodland Avenue. House has been undergoing extensive renovations and improvements for some time. This is an application seeking several variances related to a proposed covered porch in front of the house and various improvements in the rear yard. I think we have a fairly concise presentation for the board tonight. I really have two witnesses, the project architect Arthur Henn, and then our planner William Stimmel, who will also testify as a professional engineer to just review the plans for the board, even though he did not prepare them. But the project engineer had a meeting conflict and couldn't be here. Mr. Malanga has already been sworn in, is here, and obviously available to answer any questions that the board may have in the course of the presentation. So I'd like to call our first witness, Arthur Henn. And you'll need to be sworn. Sure, sit. Yeah, you can.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth? I do. Can you state your name and business address for the record?
My name is Arthur Henn, Henn. My address is 20 East Sumner Avenue, Roselle Park, New Jersey. Thank you.
Okay. Arthur, would you begin by just providing the board with your educational background and your professional qualifications?
Graduated from the New Jersey Institute of Technology with a bachelor's in architecture. Been practicing for 24 years now. My license is in good standing. Been before a number of boards. This is the first time before this board, though.
Okay. And you're the project architect for the house at 45 Woodland?
Yes.
Okay. And you prepared the plans for the proposed front porch?
Mr. Chairman, just a second. We'll
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't.
As an expert in architecture.
Architecture. I apologize. Yep. Thank you.
We're getting you a
Holder.
holder for your.
Oh, good. Okay, so just identify the plan that's on the exhibit. Is that the same plan that was submitted to the board?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Would you review the plan and what, your proposed front porch for the house?
Yeah, we're proposing a 6-foot front porch. The distance from the front of the house to the property line is 34.8 feet. The required front yard setback is 30 feet. We're proposing a covered porch that's 6 foot deep. And that will cause us to extend beyond the required front yard setback by 1 foot, 2.5 inches. The reason why we're proposing 6 foot, ideally we want 7 feet. Normally we figure like 3 feet for a couple of chairs, a little bistro table, 3 feet for like walking by, and another foot for, columns and the railings. So ideally, 7 foot deep porch functions better. But we held it back just to kind of work with the town and pull it back from the street a little bit.
Okay. Did you review any of the houses in the neighborhood with respect to, the positioning of the front porch and the intrusion into the front yard?
With my laser, I shot some measurements from the curb to the front of the house. The neighbor to the left is, well, with the proposed addition, proposed porch, and the steps, our porch will still be 6 inches shorter than the neighbor to the left.
Do you have a photo of the neighbor's
I do. I have
house?
some photos that we can enter into the exhibit. I got 2 copies. A1.
A1. Okay. All right, Arthur, before you discuss the photos, did you take those photographs?
Yes, these photos were taken this past Tuesday.
Okay. All right, so why don't you explain, and there's a total of 4?
There's 2 pages with a total of 4 photographs.
Okay. Can you just discuss the photographs?
Yeah. The top photograph on the first page is a Google Earth aerial view. Shows 45 Woodland Avenue, and the house to the left, which you can see visually that it's closer to the street. The photo on the bottom shows the Malanga's home in relation to the neighbor on the left. The second page has 2 photographs from basically the front of the Malanga's house. The one on the top is basically at their stoop, looking down the street, or I should say up the street, and you can see the neighbor to their left projecting beyond the face of their house. And then on the neighbor on the right, and all the houses continuing down the street are all pretty much consistent in line.
Can you just provide a little detail? I mean, you indicated the porch is going to be, it's proposed to be 6 foot deep.
Yeah.
What's the width of the porch?
It's 21 feet wide, with the steps that are 7 feet wide.
Okay. And what about materials? For the railings, columns, et cetera?
Yeah, we would use AZEK trim, more natural materials. I think we were using permacast columns, 8-inch columns, because it's a little more substantial, a little beefier, has a little nicer architectural feel to it.
Okay.
The front porch, just in terms of the aesthetics, you can see in the photograph that I just gave you, without the porch, it's very tall facade. The front porch will add some curb appeal to the house, break up the scale. It'll provide some protection as you come in with groceries, so it's very practical. I find a lot of times the front porches are very good with, just in terms of making a connection to the neighborhood, community, people walking by, or you're spending some time out on the front. I think it's just a benefit to the neighborhood.
Okay. Okay. No further questions.
Could you just confirm the dimensions of the porch? You said it's 6 feet going out towards the front of the street. How about the length of it?
The length is at 21 feet wide.
can just confirm that you're seeking two variances with this. One is the width of the porch, and the other is the square footage?
Well, I think, I had a conversation with Mr. Massara because I had a question regarding the interpretation of the ordinance. We were cited for two variances, but I think, based upon the conversations I had, and I believe Mr. Massara may have spoken to Kathleen, your zoning official, that it's my understanding that we only need a variance for front yard setback for the porch. Am I correct?
Because it's outside of the setback? Typically,
Yeah.
typically the width of it?
Well, Mr. Chairman, the ordinance allows 5 feet into the setback.
Right.
The applicant is asking for 6 feet. So the only violation would be the amount that extends over 5 feet. So that would be 1 foot by 21 feet. 1 foot meaning a change by 21 feet, so there would not be a square foot, a variance for the square footage.
Mr. Chairman, if I may. The plans had noted that the impervious coverage would be increased to 51.4%. In our review, we noted that the maximum impervious was 40%. So we think that this needs a variance for that increased impervious coverage.
Well, we're going to deal with that. We have there's several other variances that are going to be covered by the next witness. This witness is just addressing the front porch. Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, aren't you only allowed to have a porch that was
5 feet into the setback.
Into the
Setback's 30
setback.
feet.
Okay.
You are allowed 5 feet, however, to violate by 5 feet. The idea was when it was
So it's not the depth of the porch that can be 5 feet, it's
the depth of the porch can be 5 feet without a variance.
without a variance.
Right, so it can be a 25-foot setback.
Okay.
They are asking for 6 feet.
That's, I think there was some confusion.
Well, there is some confusion because they're asking for 6 feet. They're actually looking for 1 foot and 2 inches into the setback for 26 feet.
Correct. So it's
21 feet.
1 foot, 2 inches times 26 is the amount of square feet.
Which would be less than our 35 square feet.
Correct.
According to the architectural plan, the line of the setback at 30 feet is 1 foot, 2.5 inches. So if we're allowed to further project beyond into the setback an additional 5 feet, is this even an issue?
No. The setback is 30 feet.
Yep.
The ordinance allows a 5-foot exception for an overhang over the front door. That's really how it was designed, in a very small porch. So they could come in and say, okay, we're going to do 5 feet times 21 feet, and we don't need a variance, we don't need relief. Instead, they're saying, but we would like 7, was the testimony, give us 6. So we only need a foot worth of relief. The setback is 30 feet.
Yep.
But for the exceptions for porches, which then brings it to 25 feet. They are asking for 24 feet. Roughly.
That's not what this says. That's not what the PB1 says.
Am I not correct?
No, you're correct. We're only asking for that 1 foot 2 into the front yard setback.
Yeah.
Right. And what
Into the
Mr.
required.
Sarah is saying that you can go up to 25.
Right.
It can be 25.
You
therefore
could
it's
ask
within-
for that 7 feet without a variance, technically, if we read it that way.
I think you're saying the same thing.
But this survey here is saying that it's at 28.8. 28.8.
Yeah.
Right, that makes sense.
With the structure with the addition of the covered porch would now be 28.8 feet from the street. The front yard setback requirement is 30 feet from the street, so the variance is for the 1 foot, would you say 2.5 inch encroachment into the front yard?
So, okay, then I wasn't correct. I was thinking Kathleen, was I wrong to discuss this today? I was thinking the 30 feet does not apply to overhang.
Right, the 30-foot line is only 1'2". From the front of the porch is only 1'2" back. So the front of the house is at 34.
That's what I was thinking the front of the house was at 30 feet.
Right.
It's at 34.
So we have that extra 4.
You already had the extra 4.
Right.
Okay. Christie, I was mistaken because I thought the front of the house was already at 30. It's at 34. So.
Kathleen, do you have the section of the code that says, can you clarify that about porches?
It's 55 feet.
5.3.
Would you like to see Marissa?
Pretty good. This is the porch. It's in front of this.
But it's not. So it allows. If we were just. You need this.
27 by 5. And then look at it.
Okay, what did we agree on?
I'm not so sure that this is a problem.
Sorry?
I'm not so sure that this is a problem. Based on 5.3 section G, you're permitted a maximum projection of 5 feet into the front yard, which would set the setback line for the porch at 25 feet, and then you're maxed out at a 35 square foot maximum. So 21 feet in width times 1.3 is less than 35. So there's
How about the stairs?
touche. Well, that's not covered. Unenclosed balconies, porches, and steps. And steps.
So we would need, I calculate 47.25 square feet if you include the steps.
With the
and
steps.
Strips.
Right. So that would be the variance.
Okay.
Everybody see how we did that? Okay, you're allowed to have 35 square feet. If you take the 1 foot 2 inches along the whole 26, and you add the steps that are in there, it comes to a little over 43 square feet?
I come up with 47.
47?
0.25 square feet.
Okay. And you're allowed 35, so the variance that we're looking at is the maximum permitted front porch area of 35 square feet. We're looking at 47, so the variance would be 12 feet, 12.25 feet.
Yeah. Isn't the length of the porch 21 feet?
Yeah, 21
Okay.
times, I rounded it to 1.3, so the 21 times,
Which would be less than 35.
right, but then you add the 7 times 3, 21 square feet for the steps to that strip. If you include the steps in that strip.
Pretty much the intent of the rule was if you build your house on the setback line, you can put a 35 square foot porch in front of it.
Right, with a roof over it.
We now stretched it, pushed it back, stretched it, and pulled a little out on one side.
But again, we're extending the front of the house 6 feet, we're at 34 feet. So again, there's an intrusion. To me, it's a front yard setback variance. I don't. Because the ordinance, that's cited, talks about the roof projection, that the roof projection over an unenclosed porch can extend into the setback area up to 5 feet, but no more than 35 square feet, which the intent there is to have typical steps going into your entrance door with a porch and a roof over that porch. That can intrude into the setback area. If the house is 30 feet, you can still have this 5-foot projection for a typical porch. This is different in my mind. I mean, I just think it's a different variance that we need, I mean, in the end, we're approaching 1.2 feet into the setback, given the size of the proposed porch.
Where do we stand on the board? Everybody good with this? We're looking at one variance, minimal?
Yes.
Okay. We're all good.
Okay, well, we have another witness. If any members of the public might have any questions, hope they might.
We have to ask if there's any members of the public.
While I have it, are there any members of the public who would like to question this witness? I just keep you standing there. Seeing none,
All right, I'd like to take my next witness.
at the end.
Yeah. All right, my next witness is William Stimmel.
Someone raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth?
I do.
State your name and business address for the record, please.
William Stimmel, S-T-I-M-M-E-L. My professional address is P.O. Box 280, Rutherford, New Jersey.
Okay. Bill, would you provide the board with your educational background and your professional qualifications, both as an engineer and professional planner?
Certainly. I'm a graduate of NJIT with a degree in civil engineering. I've been employed for the past 25 years in the state of New Jersey as an engineer and a planner. I've been a licensed engineer since 2004, a licensed planner since 2010. Both my licenses are current. I've testified in front of boards in over 70 municipalities in the state of New Jersey, including this board.
I don't have a problem with Mr. Stimmel. Does anyone else? No.
Offering Mr. Stimmel both as a professional engineer.
Professional engineer and a planner.
And a planner.
Thank you.
Okay. Bill, you did not prepare the engineering drawings for the rear improvements in the rear yard, correct?
I am an engineer. I am not this engineer.
Okay. And you've reviewed those plans, though, correct?
I have.
And you understand them, I'm sure.
I do.
Okay. So would you just review the plan and what's being proposed for the rear yard of the property?
Sure. Just very briefly, there had been an addition constructed on the building as a result of a prior approval, permit 2024-2016. At least from the exterior purposes, that addition is completed. The applicant is proposing to construct pergola adjacent to that addition at the southeast corner of the building. There's going to be additional paver patio area to the west and to the south of that pergola. And then toward the southeast corner of the property, they intend to construct a 14 by 28 foot in-ground pool. There's going to be a small retaining wall constructed along portions of the southern and eastern property lines to facilitate the construction of the pool. There's also roof leaders and drainage improvements, which, as shown on this plan, are to be collected and directed to underground infiltration structures located at the southwest corner of the property. As it stands now, those are proposed to be the Cultec or similar brand plastic arches located in a stone bedding, collects the water from the drainage system and infiltrates it into the ground. So from the civil engineering perspective, that is essentially what's proposed. Oh, no, my apologies. There's also an equipment pad for the pool located to the south of the pool, adjacent to the southern property line, just behind the garage, which is on the adjoining property to the south. And that's the limit of the civil engineering for this plan.
Okay, and the zoning officer has cited 3 variances with respect to the rear yard. Can you identify what those variances are and then proceed to discuss them, provide appropriate planning proofs in support of the variances?
Sure, and I'm just going to use the numbers that were in the July 15, 2024 letter from the zoning officer. The first variance that's noted related to the rear yard is the property as a whole, let's say, is the maximum improved lot coverage, where 40% is permitted, 36.7% is existing, and 51.4% is proposed. So if you look at the subject property, the building itself is compliant with the ordinance requirements in terms of building coverage. Generally speaking, aside from our extensive conversation about the porch and the porch coverage, the front yard has a standard driveway and walkway and is generally compliant with the coverage requirements. Where the additional coverage comes in is at the rear of the property with the area of the pergola, the patio, the in-ground pool, the stone walkways, the equipment pads, walls, and so on. There's 3 issues that we look at generally when we consider a coverage variance. The first, most obviously, is the stormwater runoff. So the applicant is proposing to install drainage improvements on the subject property, which, although this is not a site plan application, will ultimately be subject to review and approval by Boswell Engineering. There has been a discussion of providing permeable pavers at the rear of the property as opposed to traditional pavers, which of course doesn't affect the calculation in terms of the coverage requirement, but it does obviously provide an additional opportunity for infiltration. The second part of it is aesthetics. You don't want to look out your window or walk down the sidewalk and see a sea of asphalt or concrete in front of or behind your neighbor's house. And again, most of that additional coverage is at the rear of the property. It's located in an area with limited visibility from surrounding properties and rights of way. In my professional opinion, I haven't found people to generally say that pools or pavers themselves are considered unpleasant to look at. The site is well landscaped now, will continue to be well landscaped in the future, and those improvements will be relatively well screened from the adjoining properties. And then the third aspect of that coverage variance is the heat island effect. There's going to be limited impact to the heat island from the provision of the pool. The applicant could propose a lighter color paver in that area to provide additional shade trees to offset the heat island impact if required by the board. The second variance, which is required for the rear yard, is the maximum aggregate accessory structure coverage, where you're allowed up to 15% of the yard in which you're located and 30% is proposed. Part of that relates to the ordinance definition or the interpretation of the ordinance, I suppose I should say, whereas everything is included as a structure. If it's not grass or dirt or mulch or a tree, it's a structure. So the board might not think of a patio, let's say, as a structure, but it is counted that way. And then the coverage of it, again, goes to those same 3 points with the coverage requirement, the runoff, the aesthetics, and the heat island effect. The third variance related to the rear yard is the setback to the equipment pad, where 5 feet is required and 0.8 feet is proposed. But in this case, and again, this is my professional opinion, because of the fact that this is close to the fence, it's also close to that garage on the adjoining property, and moving it closer to the garage actually does a better job of screening it from the neighbors to the south here, which is the ones that are impacted by that variance. We meet the setbacks to either side, so it's really just the property to the rear. So We believe that the location of the equipment pad is appropriate and provides a better zoning alternative than strict compliance with the regulation. So all of these variances would come under the category of a C2 flexible C variance. There's no hardship associated with the property. It's a fairly standard sized lot. It's actually a little bit oversized for the requirements of the zone. The applicant must demonstrate that the purposes of zoning would be advanced and the benefits derived by the variance would outweigh any detriments. So if you've ever heard the expression, it's easier to ask for a big favor than it is to ask for a small favor, this would be a relatively small favor from a land use perspective. If you have a large project, you can attach a lot of lofty planning goals to it, but the benefits and detriments associated with this are, I would say, relatively limited. But I did cite 3 purposes of zoning which are advanced by this application. The first is to encourage municipal action to guide the appropriate use or development of all lands in the state in a manner which will promote the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare. Second is purpose B, which is to secure safety from fire, flood, panic, and other natural and man-made disasters. And then purpose I, which is to promote a desirable visual environment through creative development techniques and good civic design and arrangement. Those are the purposes of zoning that are advanced and the arguments for the positive criteria. In terms of the negative criteria, from my review of the application, the materials submitted and the testimony provided, I see no substantial detriment to the public good or substantial impairment of the zone plan and zoning ordinance. The applicant is asking for relatively minor variance relief aside from the coverages in the rear yard. The property is generally compliant with the requirements of the zone, and we are providing drainage to offset the increase in coverage over what's permitted.
Just a follow-up question regarding the coverage issue. Can you talk about the in-ground pool? The pool is considered, first of all, a structure. It's also considered impervious.
Yes, good point. The pool is counted against the impervious coverage requirement. Obviously, the pool is made of concrete or similar material, but it does have storage capacity for stormwater. So your pool is not going to be filled up to the exact level of the rim. Usually you've got 6 inches or so between the top of the water and the top of the pool rim. So any water that falls on that would be contained within the pool area. So although it counts against the impervious coverage, it doesn't generally generate runoff unless you get more than 6 inches of rain.
Okay. Final question, and I hesitate to go back to the front porch, but I'd like you to just offer your comments and opinions regarding the variance required for the front porch.
Yes, the setback to the existing building is 34.8 feet. The setback line in the zone is 30 feet. So the front face of the building, the north face of the building, is 4.8 feet behind that setback line. I'm not sure if it was Mr. Massaro or the chairman who had said that you would be allowed to encroach 5 feet into the setback. So you could go 4.8 feet to go to the setback line, 5 feet past that, and that's as far as the porch could encroach. So I don't believe there is a variance associated with that encroachment, such as it is. And I believe the only variance associated with the front porch is that minor deviation from the area where we have 47 square feet roughly.
Yeah.
We have 47 square feet of coverage in that setback, which exceeds the 35 square feet that's permitted. So it's a fairly minor deviation. From my review of the neighborhood, I did see some covered porches in the neighborhood. There's one up the hill around the corner. There's one about 5 houses down on the other side of the street. There are a few. I wouldn't say it's the prevailing pattern, but I think it does add a certain amount of visual interest. It breaks up the facade of the building, as the architect had mentioned, and I look at it as a positive with very minimal variance relief required rather than a detriment to the area.
Thank you. No further questions.
Can I just have you clarify, so I'm just looking actually at the maximum lot coverage, which goes from 18.3 to 23.9. So that's 474 square foot difference. What exactly is that?
That's building coverage, I
I
think.
believe that's the building coverage.
Right, so what else is being added other than the porch for 474 square feet?
I think it's the porch and also, I think the pergola might be counted in there. I'd have to break out the calculator and check the numbers, but I think that's it.
No, it's here, it's on the plan.
Oh, okay, there you go. Yeah, right below that bubble on the zoning table, toward the right-hand side, there's lot coverage calculation. It's the dwelling, the proposed porch, the proposed addition, even though it's largely constructed at that point, at this point is shown as proposed, and the proposed pergola. That brings it up to 2008, and that's the 5.6% increase.
Mr. Stimmel, you said this is an oversized lot for this zone?
Slightly, it's 7,200 square feet is the requirement, 8,400 is what's existing.
And just to confirm, Verona does not have a cap on the number of accessory structures you can have on a site, correct?
But there is a cap on square footage.
All right, I'll start with the equipment pad that you're putting in the back. Being only 0.8 feet off, you actually have the capability of maintaining that because you can't get around it without being on the neighbor's property, or you can't get around it with the fence that's there either, to be able to do maintenance on that. So can you explain like how they would actually work on that pad if anything had to happen with it? It's just not enough room.
The pool people I work with knew that this was designed, and they were the ones who drew it that way, so they would have known what it would take to service it.
Had you considered any other locations for it?
Yeah, I think the other location that they had was by the children's slide and swings. So that's why part of why we pushed it that way, to keep it away from the swing set and the kids. I wasn't sure if it could just come a little further, that I don't know, if there was some code that was preventing that. So, but I remember the first, one of the drawings they had was like right next to the swing set.
How many trees are being removed?
Just the one in the corner.
In the rear corner?
In the rear right corner, yeah. It's a old chestnut tree that causes injuries. Have you ever had a chestnut tree in your yard?
Mm-hmm.
There appears to be a set of stairs that's kind of somewhat adjacent to the fire pit. And it's going down. Does that go anywhere specific?
No, it's just about the leveling of the land and how we get down and keep the water flowing, I believe, is part of that design.
Can those go away?
The stairs? Yeah, I don't know if they'll be needed in where, like the way everything's playing out now. I think everything has to like be a little bit lower with how the house is being finished now. So I don't think we would need all this. I think the stairs might come off the house in the end. But we're still trying to, the house is up now, so kind of see what actually played out versus what we thought would play out.
Chapter 28, Hall 29.
How much space do you have between the pool and the pergola? Because I know it seems like there's definitely a lot of patio space in the backyard.
It is 10 feet between the frame of the pergola and the edge of the pool.
Is it somewhat acceptable standard practice to have grass go right up to the pool coping?
Not a pool expert, but I have had clients tell me in the past they would prefer not have grass go right up to the edge of the pool just because of grass and dirt getting into the pool. But technology could have improved. The filters might be better than they were.
So there's not like an industry standard or something that,
No industry standard I'm aware of. I think it's more of a maintenance issue.
okay.
The steps we were talking about in the back on the patio, I guess, they seem to end at the fence. What's on the other side of the fence as far as ground is concerned? Is that grass?
The other side,
Around where the AC units are?
yeah, that's all that's all grass.
All grass?
Yeah.
So this walkway just ends at the fence?
Yeah, it would end at the fence, correct, yeah.
Is there an entrance to the house on that side or a doorway?
There's an entrance, there's a fence, there's a gate to the fence, and then you walk down to the driveway, and then there's the garage. There's no entry over there.
Okay.
The only entry is that one that's on the back by the pergola.
I was questioning the need for the walkway all the way out there.
Yeah, that's the way you go in. It's a little bit tighter now with everything on the other side, so that's probably your entry point now, but not 100% needed.
Funny, you should mention it's a little bit tighter.
But yeah, that's not 100% needed, I don't think. He's asking why it needs this. Do you need this here or not?
So to continue on that idea, I mean, that seems like a bunch of impervious coverage that could actually be reduced if that's there, like to be like a stepping stone. I mean, I understand you want to get to the AC units that are in the back, so maybe it's like stepping stones or something like that too.
Yeah, I think that would be where we would go first, yeah, but, and like I said, I think now that we're seeing how it plays out, we might not even need those stairs, so some of that could be probably cut off if we had to. I don't know how much of that was just drainage and things like that here, so, yeah. Yeah, it's all drainage. And those, and we, I don't know, we looked at, when Boswell sent the feedback, we responded and we updated all the pavers to be permeable. with the updated drawing and drainage under it. I don't know if they've received it, responded, or updated it, but our engineer sent it 2 days ago, I think.
I don't believe I've seen that plan personally. It hasn't made it my way yet.
I think it was emailed. I mean, all it does is it just added a note that the pavers were going to be pervious pavers, and I don't think there was any other.
I don't know if they had updated training and changed the depth as a result.
I think he left the capacity of the underground structures the same to, actually could be reduced, but.
On the note of the drainage system, did you have a chance to review our November 11th review letter for the drainage? Did that make it your way? Do you know?
We reviewed it, let me,
Okay.
and forwarded it to the engineer.
Okay.
Again, who's not here tonight, but he responded and gave options to Mr. Malanga, and it was decided that, adding the pervious pavers or substituting pervious pavers address the first point in your report. And the other issues I've discussed with the engineer, and he's confident that, he'll be able to work those out with Boswell, and we certainly would stipulate to condition that we need to satisfy Boswell Engineering regarding stormwater and drainage. We may have already done that with the pervious, but whatever needs to be done, we have to comply.
Are there any other questions for our engineer or our owner?
Looking at the numerous paperwork that we've received on this thing, I just want to clarify a couple of things. If I only had here,
The generator is already there, so it's just, but that's not really an issue for this board. That's between the applicant and the building department as to whether or not they put the generator in properly, because I'm reading the generator shown on the plans has been installed with no permits. So that's technically not a variance issue, because that's something they would still have to satisfy with the construction official? And that's my question,
Well,
I
it
guess.
depends if it's located, is it simply a permit issue, or is it in an area that?
Well, it says the location is compliant, so it's just,
Location's compliant.
Okay.
It's purely building.
okay, so that's something we don't have to worry
Yeah,
about.
and we have Mr. Jacobson's letter who indicated he was going to
Okay.
be issuing a violation.
As I said, I've got 15 different memos in front of me here, so I'm just trying to weed through them. The other thing is, getting back to the variance issue again, I hesitate to bring that up, but there's how many are we looking, on one document that I had here, I believe that was submitted by the applicant and Mr. Tremblak, they're acknowledging 5 variances. Have we cut that down now to a smaller number? I'm looking at the, something that was submitted on August 21st, 2024, I guess from Mr. Tremblak's office, I believe, where it seems that he's requesting 5 variances. So I don't know how much of that is involved.
I think we're down to 4.
We're down to 4.
You think
We
we're
shook
down-
we shook 1 and 2 and came up with just 1 variance.
Okay, I guess, once again, so we're down to 4 variances, okay. Just to put it out in my own head, thank you.
Just looking at the environmental conditions letter, and we've disturbed more than 400 square feet, and sorry if I missed this, but so has this been evaluated for stormwater management?
It is being reviewed by Boswell. They issued a comment letter. The applicant's engineer apparently, who again is not me, apparently provided a response, and it's in transit to Boswell.
Okay.
Of course, you're referring to point 2 on the environmental commissions?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm just looking between the survey and the proposed drawing for the topography. And like the topography is the exact same, so even after the construction, the topography is written as being the exact same, but yet you have walls altering in heights. So I just want to know, like, I just want to verify that you're not disturbing anything along the property, between the neighbors' properties, because I have a hard time believing that you're doing all this work and not changing the topography at all.
As is depicted on the plan, the only changes to the topography are along that wall, which wraps around the south and east sides of the pool.
But the topography lines stay the same between the two drawings.
Yeah,
So
there's no change to the contours as you go along the west side or the remainder of the east side or in the front of the building.
Any more questions for our engineer, planner, or owner from the board? Hearing none. Is there anyone from the public who would like to ask a question of our engineer, planner, or the owner? Questions, right? Come up to the microphone and please give us your name.
Paul Petrangeli, Verona, New Jersey. Just real quick, I run a survey department. I make these maps at a big engineering firm for a living, so I do have a little bit of experience. I have a question on the front porch. Are the stairs going to be to the side, or are they going to be sticking out front? Because if you have a 28.8 setback right now, and you're talking about 4 or 5 steps with a 1-foot tread, that would stick you into the variance. And then also, if they're to the side, it would be more aesthetic to the neighborhood, because a lot of those neighbors just don't have. So I was just wondering where the steps are going to be, is my question.
I believe, and Mr. Henn can tell me if I'm wrong, those steps are existing, the porch is coming off of the side. Is that right?
We just don't get a map. I've seen you see the map. Okay. So you're putting addition onto that porch, you're sending over.
Right, it's coming off the east side.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else from the public who has a question? If not, Counselor?
That concludes our case, Mr. Chair. We have no further evidence or witnesses.
Is there anyone from the public who would like to make a statement about this application? You should change your seat, Paul.
You should come to the council meetings. You'll know I stand up a lot. Paul Petrangeli, Verona. My statement was just the pool equipment. I believe if that garage behind it or anything knocks down, I think anything happens, that pool equipment is pretty close to the line at 0.8. You know, it's not even 10 inches, basically. You're at 9.5 inches there, and that's my only thing. Otherwise, it's really nice.
Thank you.
And the impervious coverage, sorry. The impervious coverage I really don't have an issue with because that land is so sloped, everything runs downhill.
Not sure that's good. I'm not sure that's good. Okay. Is there anyone else from the public who would like to make a statement about this application? Seeing none, I will close the public portion of the application and open up board deliberation. Okay, we got 4 variances that have been requested. Given the lengthy discussion on the first 2, do they stand as a problem or a plus for anybody?
You just be specific of the first 2.
Oh, I'm sorry. The first 2 refer to the front porch, and it would be the maximum permitted front porch area of 35 feet and not to exceed a maximum projection of 5 feet. I think we worked out that it's actually projecting 47 square feet, and we allow 35, so it's a 12-foot variance, and I rounded numbers there.
So, Mr. Chairman, the document I'm looking at, we're essentially merging variances 3 and 4 into one. Is that correct? Initially? Okay. It's both of them refer to the porch.
Okay, that's the two I'm referring to.
Okay.
Okay, so that's not, I have no issues. Okay, perfect. Let's flip, since coverage is a different item, and this is a specific, to the minimum pool equipment setback from the property line. The 4-foot by 8-foot pad is 0.8 feet from the rear property line. Are people comfortable or uncomfortable with that?
I personally am uncomfortable with that being that close to the property line.
Okay.
So I would agree, and I think the comment from the resident that the garage right now it sits there, but that's always subject to change, especially over time. I would definitely be more comfortable having more of a buffer than less than a foot.
Okay. Is that general consensus and nods?
It seems like they are asking for a lot here. I mean, if the ordinance calls, I think it says here 5 feet from the property line, and they're not even putting it a foot.
Right.
But they're basically 8 inches from the back. Would it be, is this just for, because they just think it's more convenient this way, or would there be a sizable detriment to filtering the pool if we didn't grant them, 0.8 feet? Maybe there's somewhere between 5 and 0.8 that would be more appropriate. Can you address that, Counselor?
I understand the concern. I mean, if the board denies that variance, the pad's going to have to be shifted, I guess to the west and pulled back from the property line. But again, I think the board understands it's already been testified to, according to Mr. Stimmel, thought this was a very appropriate location. First of all, you've got a 4-foot fence, 6-foot high fence, and then just beyond that fence, maybe 2 feet on the other side of the property is the garage. Now, granted, the garage may not be there forever, but right now, I mean, there's no visual, nobody from neighboring properties could see the pool equipment. And also, in terms of any sound that might emanate from the equipment, you've first got the fence and then you've got the garage to buffer any effects. So, I don't think there's any detriment there, but again, if the board denies the variance, we'll have to move it.
Does the pool equipment make more noise than this air conditioning unit?
Probably not.
Because you might have to put a wall up there. If you were to move it out from behind the garage and further to the west, could you get it 5 feet from the rear property line?
If it's over by where that tree is, you can get it there. It's just like it's right next to the swing set. That was what I looked at. I don't know how far it can go off that fence. That's the only thing I don't know. If there's some rule or regulation or how it squeezes in there.
Well, it's got to be set back 5 feet.
5 feet.
Yeah, that you can't do it there. It has to be over by that swing set. That's where we would do it.
Chairman, I would be okay with something less than 5 feet, but just definitely greater than 0.8 feet.
How many play here?
Personally. So I mean, I would compromise at 2.5 feet.
I think that was my main concern as well, is walls, you know.
Yeah.
I guess the question would be is compromise position, you have a retaining wall, it looks like there, does that create a,
Yeah, I think it would just be just a,
Well, Mr. Stimmel just pointed out that we could move the retaining wall and shift it, you know, move everything a little closer to the pool, which will allow for the 2.5 feet setbacks.
would that make, alleviate some of the concerns, Paul?
It would alleviate, yeah, 2.5 they're talking about now?
2.5.
Yeah.
It's a good thing that guy went to NJIT.
it's a good thing that guy went in.
Yeah.
Retaining walls get moved. Okay, that moves us, I think, moves us to the two coverage area questions. Maximum impervious coverage. Permitted 40%. Looking for 51.4. And we had discussed the possibility of reducing that walkway that goes out to the west side. Here. Let's see. If we were to eliminate that, I'm going to have to rely on your engineer and our engineer. If we were to eliminate that, say, from squaring off the fire pit out to where it hits the fence, would that knock off, would that reduce the percentage from 51 down below 50?
It would knock off 80 square feet.
Okay, so every, what, 84 square
A little
feet?
less than
A
1%.
little less than 1%?
So we'd still be a hair over.
So I know it's a high percentage, but I'm okay with it. They testified they're going to be using permeable pavers. The pool itself, while I know it's impervious, that will capture some of the rain and water as well, and along with the drainage and system that they have designed, I'm okay with the coverage.
You bring up a good point about the pool. It just ballpark, how much does the pool actually add to the problem here? And the square
I did
footage
this
of the pool?
calculation. If you took the pool, if you didn't count the pool, it would be, we'd have 45% coverage.
Right, so you'd be much closer
It reduces
to this
the
gentleman.
variance from 10% to 5%.
Okay, all right, so. all right.
But
No, I think the gentleman brought up a good point about the pool, that's why.
So these permeable pavers, they have to be a certain percentage open and all that stuff to be considered permeable, right? And, I'm sorry.
There's standard specs designed to my review. I'm sure the building specified.
Michael, they don't count towards pervious.
Correct, they'll still be impervious, but for the sake of this discussion, were we to knock off at less than 1% that are effectively going to act as pervious, I don't think it makes a significant difference.
So that would be happening at any new pavers? Like there's the existing patio and there's that circular section of the patio where the the pergola is going and that's all existing to remain.
Confirm whether the existing patio will be replaced.
The existing patio is now part of the house, so that's gone. So everything else is new would be impervious.
Okay.
Impervious, sorry.
It would be pervious. yeah.
Pervious.
I have trouble with that too.
I'll never get it.
Take off the M.
I mean, I'm good with the current coverage, the fact about the pool. I think, and if I heard it correctly, they're going to work with Boswell, address the fact that there is an updated township stormwater management code and all that, deal with the remarks related to something that was kind of addressed related to the equipment issue, but I think if that is addressed to the new code and all that, after the fact, I'm good with the current coverage as is.
How about maximum aggregate area covered by accessory structures? Right now, the maximum is 15%, and the current, or I guess the increased rear yard coverage would be 30%. I don't have any issue with that. I think our definition of everything counting as an accessory structure, including patios and pools and whatnot, is a little restrictive. So I don't have an issue with
more than
the variance.
Can you, I'm sorry, I don't remember this gentleman's name, I'm sorry. Are there other municipalities who have that stipulation?
There are municipalities who look at structures as just buildings or buildings and walls, or they include walkways. There are some that include structures below the surface. So, for instance, the stormwater infiltration structure would count as a structure for the purposes of determining coverage. It's there's no standard definition, but this is among the more restrictive.
Yeah, I guess what I'm asking is just the accessory structure in a rear yard being 15%, like.
That seems low.
Yeah.
Based on my experience.
Municipal land use law defines structures the way our code. So that's the standard that we defer to. So, and that's restrictive, and it doesn't make any sense. I talked to Mr. Chadwick about that today, but that's how the MLUL defines it. And to me, it's, like you said, it could be underground.
Sort of, it seems redundant to the impervious coverage, when you're picking up everything that's on the site, whether it's a building or flat to the ground.
Yeah, I don't generally have any issues with this. The only, again, consideration that I had taken was on a macro scale. The houses on Linden, they all have those same really long driveways and those garages in the back, so those are all presumably, excuse me, all probably over what they're allowed. But these lots on Woodland are pretty big, and a lot of them do not have that same condition. They just have the driveway that goes right up to the front of the house. So to me, that's favorable.
Are there any other opinions?
I don't have a problem with approving that particular variance.
I'm still a little off because the lot is 1,000 square feet bigger than standard lots in that area. And these are all percentages, so they're all a percentage, 12.5% bigger than we would allow on adjacent lots that are the same size for that zone. But if everybody appears to be moving toward an acceptable, and we're talking acceptable without removing any additional pavers?
Once again, I'm assuming as long as, my concern once again, but they've agreed to that, is that they have to follow strict stormwater management policies that the work out with Boswell.
We have to.
That's obviously going to be a condition of anything.
Okay. Absolutely. I mean, we have to satisfy Boswell.
I'm comfortable with it. The one thing I noticed about Woodland Avenue properties is that lots are deep.
Yeah.
They're much larger than most of the other lots in the area. And I'm happy that they were willing to, or that they're willing to move the equipment pad, which was up against the fence. So I would approve this.
Okay. Good. Okay, are we at a point where we can call the question? Would someone like to make a motion?
Did we solve the front porch issue, I guess? Okay, we're good with that. Okay. I mean, I like front porches, I just want to know.
I'll make a motion to approve application 2024-19
Thank you, Scott. Second?
with the condition of the pool equipment being 2.5 feet away and the revision of the front porch variance.
Okay. And the Boswell storm. All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Bill. May we have a roll call vote?
Dr. Reese?
Yes.
Dr. Cortez?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mrs. DeBartolo?
Yes.
Mr. Mathewson?
Yes.
Vice Chair Weston?
Yes.
Chair McKinley?
No.
I count the motion passed, and we will have our accountant. We'll have our attorney prepare the resolution, which should be available for our December meeting.
Thank you very much. Thank
Good.
you all so much.
Good luck with your construction. Okay. Does anybody need? Okay. Don't need to.
No, that's you.
Thank you, Mr. Stimmel. Hey, Mr. Stimmel, what year? NJIT, what
They
year?
always don't know whether it's better.
Yeah. Yeah. I was 80. And see. Okay. That moves us through the first two applications. Harrison? The fun one. Well, you're allowed to be in the room. If anyone is here for the fourth application on the agenda, 110 Linden, they have requested to be carried to the February meeting. So they will not be heard this evening. They will be carried to the February meeting, and they have consented to the time constraints, and therefore there will be no further announcements or public notices. It will be on our agenda, and you can always find out by contacting the office. But right now it is scheduled. I should announce when it is scheduled for. It goes to February 13th, 2025. However, as far as I know, application number 3 is still on the agenda for this evening. 2024-20, 95 Harrison Street. And note for the record that Mrs. DeBartolo has recused herself from this application.
Good evening, Chairman and members of the board. Can you hear me okay?
Is Is your microphone?
It's
got a
on,
little
yeah.
yellow-
Get closer. Is that better? Oh, yeah, there you go. Whew. My name is Robert Hessels from RDH Design Group. I did the application on behalf of the Spinas, the residents. What I'd like to do at this time is I'm going to turn the intro over to Mrs. Spinas so she can just say a few words on the project, if that's okay.
It is. First, we'd like to have council swear you in.
Okay, great.
First, Mr. Chairman, the application was deemed complete, notice was proper, and we may proceed. Mrs. Spina, can you raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth?
I do.
Can you state your name and address for the record, please?
Sure. Liza Spina, 95 Harrison Street.
Thank you.
Can I begin? Great. Thank you. So good evening, everybody. Thank you to the board and committee members for being here and taking the time to review our application for variance. We moved to Verona about 10 years ago in February 2014 and moved into our house on the corner of Harrison and Forest Avenue with our daughter Sienna, who is now a 7th grader at HBW. And then soon after moving into our home, we had our second daughter, Charlotte, who is currently a 3rd grader at Forest Avenue. Our family has grown to love and adore the township of Verona. My husband works at Prestige Title Insurance here in Verona, and we're heavily involved in the community, from our kids' involvement in various rec programs and sports, to my husband coaching and sponsoring both girls' travel and rec softball teams, to myself being part of the Forest Avenue STA, and numerous hours of volunteering at the school. It goes without saying, we love raising our family here, and we have plans to stay in Verona for a long time to come. So the township has our best interests. When we purchased our home over 10 years ago, we had a dirt side yard with overgrown bushes and shrubbery, a cracked and dangerous back patio, and very little curb appeal. Because we live on a corner lot, our side yard acts as our backyard, and it provides the most space for our kids to run around and play. So it was very important to us to make this space usable. We had some renovations done to the home prior to us moving in, but the yard was left for us as the new home buyers to fix up and make suitable for our family to use. Over the years, between a new roof and siding, a lot of landscaping, dead tree removal, planting of new trees, along with working tirelessly with a local landscaper to finally grow grass in our side yard, we felt that we were on our way to a beautiful yard for our family to enjoy. And in doing so, greatly improved upon the curb appeal, which added not only to the overall value of our home, but our neighbors' homes as well. Regarding our more recent backyard renovations, including these here within our variance application, our goals remain unchanged in that we want to provide our family with the forever home and backyard that we've always dreamt of, and in the process continue to improve upon the value of our neighbors' homes and the neighborhood as well. We have, over the last 10 years, spent a lot of time and money to take our overgrown and unsightly lot and transform it into a beautiful, luscious green corner lot of our busy Forest Avenue street, which, as I'm sure you're aware, is a main entrance into the Forest Avenue neighborhood. As it specifically relates to the request for variance in this application, we believe the end result of these additional items will directly align with the outcome of our previously completed renovations, for which we continue to receive compliment after compliment from neighbors, family, and friends, and even those passing by who feel compelled to stop us and tell us how beautiful our yard is and what an improvement we have made to the neighborhood. We've even received multiple requests for our landscaper's contact information from people who have passed by and noticed the transformation. If this is not indication of the improvement that we've provided our neighbors and the town, I'm not sure what is. Transparently, we have already made several concessions from our originally desired plans due to the hardships associated with living on a corner lot and all of the special regulations and rules we have to adhere to. We also don't have the luxury of having a true backyard with privacy and space like many of our neighbors do. In fact, most of our neighbors who do not live on a corner lot would be able to make these exact same improvements without having to require a variance. These final plans included in the variance request are not our first, second, or even third choice in plan design. This is our best effort in coming as close to our originally desired plans as we can, and frankly, an attempt to reduce challenges faced with living on a corner lot. To conclude, in all instances of plan design, our end goal has always been focused on providing our children with a beautiful yard and the overall improvement of our home as well as community. I'm sure you've seen upon visiting the site, all of the improvements thus far excuse me, have only beautified the property and are hidden from the public view. We do not believe that any of these variance requests are or would be viewed as a public nuisance or detriment to any of our neighbors or community members. In fact, we've spoken to our neighbors and have letters of support from a handful of our closest proximity neighbors, all of whom are pleased with our yard transformation and have graciously offered their support in the approval of these variances. Thank you for your service to the town, and thanks for being here tonight to listen to our request for variance.
Thank you, Mrs. Sweeney.
Wow, that was extremely well said. Should I just open to questions? I am going to be testifying. I'm a licensed landscape architect and a planner, so I need to be sworn in.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth?
Yes, I do.
And your name and business address for the record?
My name is Robert Hessels. My business address is 14 Blackwell Avenue in Morris Township, New Jersey. You want a little history?
If we're going to accept you as a architect, engineer, planner, which?
Planner and landscape architect, both. I graduated from Rutgers University back in 1991 with a degree in environmental planning and design and minor in landscape architecture. I received my license in landscape architecture in '99. Received my planning license in 2000. Opened RDH Design Group in '97. So I've been practicing in this field for a little over 30 years now. And I have not had the privilege of being in front of this board, but I have testified locally in Essex County, like Roseland, Livingston, Milburn. I do a lot of work in Morris County as well as Union County, and also some in Bergen County.
And your licenses are current?
My licenses are current, yep.
Anyone have an issue with accepting this applicant as a landscape architect and planner?
No, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're accepted for the record.
As Mrs. Spina said, the property is located on corner of Harrison and Forest. It is a corner lot, making life difficult for the owners, being the fact that corner lots are always tough with flow and spaces, and they make for little nuances in terms of needs for relief. In this application, there's 3 separate projects. I look at it as each one needing 1 variance. The first one that's being requested is for a generator. They would like to locate a generator in the front yard, on the front being on Forest Avenue, that front yard. The setback would be 30 foot 6 inches. Currently, the code requires 45 feet, but we took a look at it and we couldn't sneak it in the side yard on the south side, or also the other like rear yard, which would be by the deck, which was like unsafe. And the most logical spot was in the front corner there. And that will be heavily landscaped. And we would certainly work with the Environmental Commission on, using native plantings and such to position that properly and make sure that that everything gets screened and it's not a detriment to the neighborhood. The second project is what I'm calling the side patio. There's some different names to it. The side patio is the patio on the south side of the property. That's the long, narrow patio. Currently, that patio sits at its max is 8 feet wide. Excuse me, by 20 foot long, with a stretch of roughly 3 feet of like walkway. They would like to add 4 feet, extend that patio 4 feet out towards the side property line. Whereas 5 foot is required, so that would leave 1 foot buffer between the patio and the property line. So they're looking for 4 feet of 4 foot for variance to get that to be like a more usable space. Then it would become 12 feet wide, which is something that's functional and not just a walkway on the side yard. Currently, it has a 6 foot fence. It's well protected, and in the past, this was brought up that there was a pre-existing condition where there was a patio there. It was removed in one of their numerous projects, and obviously they discovered that doesn't function properly. So we would like to add that patio back in. That's our second request. The third one is for rear yard accessory coverage. As you can tell, the property being a corner makes that space much smaller than it would be if it was a standard size lot. So currently it sits at a 29% coverage of accessory, being the deck, the spa that sits there right now, the wall. What we're proposing to add is 84 square feet, raising that coverage to 32.77%. So asking for a 3.7% increase in coverage. Again, as Mrs. Spina said, they landscape the property like beautifully. It's well buffered from the road. There's pictures on page 2 that show pictures of the property. Again, like I said, it's extremely private. It's very beautiful when you stand from the outside. It's also very private from the inside. So seeking that rear yard accessory coverage increase would be a very minimal. So those are the 3 requests for variance, and I would like to open up to questions.
There was a comment from our construction official around the generator being located near a window. Can you testify if the generator will be at least 5 feet from any windows?
Yeah, it's going to meet all the construction requirements that are necessary. Yes.
You also said that the generator is going to be landscaped and/or screened. Can you elaborate a little more on what the proposed plans are?
Well, basically, the planting, I mean, I would recommend as a landscape architect, I would say we would do like some skip laurels or maybe some heavy juniper or something along those lines that would buffer that area. With Verona's Environmental Commission, I would take a look at their list and see what we can utilize that would create the same effect in utilizing their plant list. So, that would be, you wouldn't be able to see it at all from the road.
Am I correct in assuming that the generator that you proposed is going on the Forest Avenue side of the house?
Yes,
correct?
It's on the Forest Ave side of the house.
And your plan is to put shrubbery in front of it, correct?
Exactly.
How many feet will that generator take as far as the house is concerned?
You mean in terms of the size of the generator?
Right. Yeah.
The generator is 30 inches by 3 feet. That's the square size of it.
Okay. It cannot fit on the other side of the house, I take it.
Well, we looked at different locations, and you have the AC units were tucked in on the side yard, and there's no space over there, it would be closer to the neighboring property, which would trigger a different variance. And there was no room in between the utilities. That was the one side where the air conditioning units are. On the other side by the deck, which is the rear yard, like if you were coming in off Harrison, if it was placed in its proper location, it would be like right off the deck and kind of in the middle of the rear yard, being like in an unsafe space and unable to have the yard function at all. So that's why we settled with this location.
How often does the generator need to run periodically?
You know, I'm not a generator expert, but going by mine. Yeah, we have our engineer here. Can I swear Brian in so he can testify on how his generator operates?
Wait until you're done.
Okay.
The current deck that's there, what is underneath? Is it pavement, gravel, rocks, dirt, grass?
It's gravel and dirt.
All right, so where you have, the swim spa's already existing, correct, in that patio?
Yes, the deck and the swim spa exist.
So that's up, I'm assuming,
It's up, it's up
by
about.
like 4 or 5 feet?
No,
4
it's
feet?
more like, what, 30 inches? It's the swim spot.
Well, you have this wood deck at 209 and then this deck at 213, so it's at least
Hang on, yeah,
about
with
4 feet.
4 feet.
And then how high is the TV screen going to be projected up?
It would sit at 6 feet high. The structure itself, the whole structure is 8 feet tall.
So that's 8 feet tall, and that's 8 feet above grade or?
No, that's at the same grade.
At the same. And then the bar, how high is the bar?
The bar would be at it's the same height as the deck.
So it comes up probably roughly 4 feet?
Yeah, so it would, yes, exactly.
So on the TV screen, if I'm trying to understand this correctly, that'll be at about 217 feet, based on the topography.
Oh.
I'm taking that off the wood deck.
Yeah, we'll top the deck, and then we have 210 on grade. Yeah, I guess you could say the bottom of the TV would sit at roughly 217.
So the
Yes.
bottom's at 217.
Yes.
And then it's to the top, you're saying,
Yeah, because we have, hold on. 8 feet, missing like another 4. So 217, 220. So the top would be 220.
so 3 foot tall TV. And then what do you have surrounding that vegetation-wise? I know there's,
Surrounding the whole rear yard is it's evergreens, it's arborvitae.
it's all arborvitae.
Yeah. Yeah, so that whole back area is screened in.
I'm sorry, Ron, but then the pavers behind it, that's at grade level, so what's the purpose of the pavers then on the other side of the deck? And how do you get to them?
You would come right off the edge of the deck and step onto the pavers. It would just be like a small pathway.
But the deck is at 213, and then that's back down to grade. Am I looking at this right, the yellow hatched area?
Yeah, you know what? It's actually a step down, my mistake. Yeah, looking at the elevations, because the patio is at 212. It would sit at that existing grade of 212. So you come off the deck and you would step down to the patio area.
Oh, I see what you're talking about. So is it the intent that that's a flat paved area? The pavers there are flat?
Yes.
Because you need some sort of retaining, right?
Well, right now, the way the deck sits, it has a small wall around it.
Okay.
So that wall would become a step down to the patio area to maintain that 212 grade that shows on the plans.
All right. And now I just want to go to the pavers in the, I'll call it the backyard.
Okay.
So you're saying you have a 5-foot setback, but you're only going to make the pavers 4 feet?
Yes.
And there'll be a 1-foot gravel there?
4 foot, and it'll be, like a 1 foot gravel strip. We'll need to do something with drainage, and that Brian can attest to.
I believe you mentioned, we'll call it the I guess, side yard patio, that was previously there, and then during one of the projects, it was removed and looking to add back. Was there ever a previously approved variance for it?
Actually, all I know that it was just on the survey when they bought the house, and it was there when they started construction.
Do you have the plan?
We have the copy of the old survey if you'd like to see it.
No, that's not gonna.
Yeah.
That's not gonna.
Any additional questions for our landscape architect or homeowner?
If I may. As the step down to that patio in the side yard next to the counter bar, that's about a 1.25 foot step down, right? Or you're at 213.25 to 212? Am I?
Yeah, 213.25 to 212. Yes, you're correct.
Is there any concern of that being a tripping hazard? I mean, you're next to the bar there. I know I've had a couple. So I'm just bringing up, I had a safety concern.
No, understood. It'll have 2 long steps, and I'm sure, I mean, we don't have it in the drawings, but there'll probably be some lighting for safety purposes.
We good? Questions? You want to, is there anyone from the public who would like to ask a question of the homeowner or the landscape architect based on the information that they've presented so far? This is a time for questions.
Pat Buckham on 96 Harrison Street, sorry.
If you would.
Okay.
It just makes it a little bit more orderly.
Pat Buckham on 96 Harrison Street. I have several questions. My first question is about the generator in the front yard. Are you calling the front yard Forest Avenue or Harrison? The address is 96 Harrison, so the generator is going in the front yard.
Yeah, there's 2 front yards, so it's going to go on the Forest Ave side.
So you have 2 front yards?
Yeah, corner lot is 2 front yards.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
My second question is, but that's not about the generator, so thank you.
Okay.
Oh, that's it, right? Only about the generator now. Thank you.
Perfect. Well, anything that he spoke about,
Or that she spoke.
or she spoke
Okay,
about.
I have a question about the television in the side yard. Is that in addition to the television in the back of the house?
We're not asking for a variance for a television.
No, I'm asking, are there going to be 2 televisions? So one in the back of the house and then one in the side patio by the pool?
Do I need to swear and speak? Yes, you do.
You raise your right hand, please. You swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth.
I do.
Can you state your name and are you Mr. Spina?
Vincent Spina, 95 Harrison Street. I'm the homeowner.
Thank
you. To answer Pat's question, the accessory structure that we're asking for a variance for, though labeled in the plans as a TV stand, it's really more so acting as a privacy screen. If you look at the pictures and the maps that were provided earlier, there's one line of sight, if you're in our driveway, that offers no protection from the what are the tree plantings called? Arborvitaes. So if you're in our driveway, there's a direct line of sight into our swim spa. So that accessory structure will have a dual purpose and more so act as a privacy screening. Do we have intention of putting a second TV on it? Yes, we do.
And where will the speakers on the second TV be? Hooked up to the first TV, or they will have their own speakers?
There will be no additional speakers other than the TV and any speakers that come on a normal TV that you purchase.
So the speakers will still be on the back of the house?
We are not moving the existing speakers, no.
Okay, so the new TV won't have speakers?
The new TV, we do not play the TV out of the speakers that are on our house. We play music out of the speakers on the house. It has nothing to do with the TV.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, I'm kind of a rookie, so if I'm not asking at the right time, I'm sure you'll let me know. I'm Kathleen O'Toole from Verona. Can you talk a little bit more about the generator? What's the purpose of the generator? Is it just for emergency power?
The purpose of the generator is we made a very significant investment in a swim spa, and we do not want to have an incident like a Superstorm Sandy or some other storm event where we lose power in the winter and then our very heavily investment in the swim spa, water freezes, creates damage. So the main purpose of the generator is to be able to keep the swim spa running to avoid a significant loss in investment.
Regardless of whether we lose power, it's going to run continuously?
No, the generator, someone was going to speak to that earlier. I'm certainly no expert on generators, but to my knowledge, the generator doesn't do anything. It maybe turns on and tests itself once every 24 hours, and it only runs in the event there's power outage.
Is it gas or diesel?
I believe it would be connected to the utility line, gas. Another reason why it's in the location it is because our utility lines are right there up against the house, which makes it a lot more easier to hook up.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any chance you had a professional sound engineer do a study about the additional TV, the additional speaker, the volume coming from the TV?
No, the only thing I could
Along
respond.
with, I'm sorry, okay, just let me finish.
I didn't thought you
Along
were
with the
finished.
generator, what additional impact that will be to the noise coming from the area?
As I previously just mentioned, I don't think the generator will create any noise, and it will be heavily insulated with privacy plantings to cover up any sound effect or noise that it does make. And no, we do not have a special report run for sound. We've also received, I mean, we've been living with these renovations for quite some time now. We received not one single complaint of noise.
Not true.
We've not received one single complaint from noise, and we've not had one single incident filed to our knowledge that's been reported to us.
Okay. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Kathleen.
Next one. Hello, good evening. I live on Forest Avenue, like 49 Forest Avenue, across from the neighbors, which I don't know.
You are, state your name.
Małgorzata Karpińska,
Can you spell that?
Karpinska, MAL, first name, MALORZAP. So they've been living here for 10 years. I never had a chance to meet them. I crossed the street. They were saying they're very friendly. I don't think so, they're friendly. I know all my neighbors, and I know they're friendly. They say hi, hello. They've been doing work for the last 2 years. My grill looked very beautiful, but referring to the previous owner, I think previous owner was very neat, was older lady. I knew her. I lived in the Verona 27 years.
Is there
And
a
I never
question?
seen any
We need a
problem.
question. We'll have a time at the
Yes.
end to make
Okay,
statements.
so I just want to say generator. Okay, my bedroom comes across from you. This is additional noise to my bedroom. And I really don't think it's a good idea. You don't need that big generator to support your water or your electricity. Usually, you know, town is so good with all of these disasters, excuse me.
Is there a question or a
For a long
statement?
time through Sandy and through other storms, Floyd, everything. And we never had power outage for more than a day or a
Margaret,
couple hours.
again,
So.
a question.
Okay, so I'm saying, if generator is going to be covered, it's going to be noisy, I would like to know how noisy it's going to be. It's going to affect me. That's very important to me because another air conditioning, another generator, I think you don't need that big generator. You need a small generator and just use it whenever you need it.
If we lose power, you're more than welcome to come over.
That's
and,
okay, I can survive this. I think I survived.
What is your address?
49 Forest Avenue, I'm across from you.
49 Forest Avenue. So you're the corner house?
Yes, I'm across.
You're the corner house.
Thank you.
And, just for the record,
Can we respond to that question?
I don't know what the question was.
The question was, is the generator going to be loud? or-
To answer the question, which I am very confident in saying that the generator will not be a noise nuisance to anyone in the surrounding neighborhood or houses.
And
With or without privacy plantings, and with the privacy plantings, it definitely will not be.
just to reiterate, it's really the purpose of it, it's not just a luxury. The purpose of it is so that if we happen to lose power, our swim spa needs to run, or else if it's during the wintertime, the water could freeze and that could damage, like Vinnie said, our big investment. So we really just need it.
Just for the record, the board understands the need. Our concerns are the location and the noise and the disturbance to the neighborhood.
Mr. Chairman, if I could maybe try to, in reading the Kathleen's report, we're really concerned with the location of the generators under our code are permitted in the front yard, okay. But the generator also, doesn't that have to meet noise standards or something? Don't they have to meet, you know?
So that would fall under
Building code would, so really what we're dealing with here primarily is the location of the generator, not the, you know, not the, now the noise factor, I guess, obviously factors into that, but they would still have to meet all of the building codes requirements for the type of generator that they're proposing.
Which we can ensure that it would meet all of the required codes for.
And that was referenced in Mr. Jacobson. We do have a statement from our construction official referencing that point, that it still would have to, even if the variance for the location was approved, it still has to meet all of the other standards required of an independent generator under the Verona Township Code. I just wanted to clarify that for the members of the public. We're dealing with the location here, and tangentially the noise effects. That's certainly part of it, but we don't, allowing a generator is up to the town, per se.
Is there anyone else from the public who has a question of these witnesses based on the testimony they've presented so far this evening?
Just a question.
Questions are what we're looking for at this moment.
That's it. I was just wondering the distance.
Just for the record,
Oh,
this is
Paul
a new
Petrangeli.
application.
Paul Petrangeli, Verona, New Jersey. I was just wondering, I know your front yard is really like your side yard. What is the distance from the generator to the setback? What's the new one? Is it, because I know,
It's going to be 30 feet 6 inches.
okay, 30 foot 6 inches?
Yes.
So then the 66 foot right away of the street and then 30 feet on the next one. The next house is probably about 100 feet away from the generator, besides the neighbor. Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone else from the public who has a question of these witnesses? If not, Mr. Essen, would you like to move on to your engineer?
Sure. I'd like to introduce Brian Horley.
Please remain standing, Mr. Williams. Counsel will swear you in.
You swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth?
I do.
Can you state your name and your business address for the record, please?
Brian Worley. My address is 14 Blackwell Avenue in Morris Township. My qualifications, I have my engineering degree from Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute in 1991, my MBA from Rensselaer in 1994, received my professional license in 2002, and it's been in good standing with the state ever since. I've testified in other boards in Essex County. This is my first time here in Verona. Also several in Morris County and Bergen County for RDH.
Seeing none, if Dr. Fieser would say you're okay, then we'll say you're okay.
Thank you. From an engineering standpoint for the site, I just wanted to affirm that we will work with Boswell to make sure that we meet all building codes for all permits for anything that's approved to go forward. We will also have a stormwater management plan that was referenced to be required as well. So there's nothing that would go forward that wouldn't, are stipulating to work with Boswell to meet all township codes. Just to clarify on the generator itself is, as Bob had testified to, is probably 30 inches by 3 feet. Volume from a noise perspective is like a small lawnmower. They get quieter and quieter every year. With proper screening, I don't think that there would be any detrimental effects to the neighbors in the location that's proposed. There are actually other locations that we looked at that were far closer to neighbors and would propose a more possible detrimental effect. From a running standpoint, most generators are programmable. They run once a week for 10, 15 minutes just to test. And then other than that, they only come on a power outage. I myself personally put one in after Sandy. And I can attest that after I put it in, it's probably only run a handful of times since. So it is a good benefit to have for homeowners to protect investments. And the volume is not really a noise concern. If it's situated properly and screened properly, it helps keep the noise down from the neighbors. And we think this location is properly designed to do just that.
Okay. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Spino, would you agree to run the test whenever it's needed for the generator, I'd say between the hours of 10 a.m. and 3 p.m.?
Absolutely. Would be running when, I'm assuming we have the ability to set when the tests run, then yes, we would absolutely do that.
Yes, and you will. You can program the day at a time. You pick what's best around everything else. So.
We do a lot of generators. Okay, questions for the engineer?
I have a question.
Hang on. Let me just clear the board first. We good? Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want to make sure,
Okay.
just for the record, we do
This
the
is
board.
Ray Roche. I live at 64 Forest. Can this generator also be used to independently power that spa? The generator should be. I didn't ask, no, I'm asking your engineer.
Independently, I don't understand the question.
If I had a very large electric bill from PSE&G and I wanted to cut it down because of this spa, I could come up with another power source. Could that generator be the power source?
I would have to double check, but I don't know that the township ordinances would allow, it's an emergency generator for emergency purposes.
So you don't know if it could do it?
We would have to check the sizing of it, but yeah, the intent would be to keep the water flowing, I guess.
So you could check and let me know?
Well, to answer your question, was it capable of it?
Yes.
Yes. The question I would have is, I don't think the township ordinances allow generators to be run for anything other than an emergency purpose.
Okay, that might be the law, but I'm asking you, is it possible? And you said yes, you think it is.
But the intent of the generator is to be able to run the spa, so yes.
Thank you. That's my question. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Rose. Is there anyone else who has a question for our engineer? Okay, seeing none. Mr. Hessels? Oh, do you have any other witnesses?
No, we have no other witnesses.
Then, at this point, is there anyone from the public who would like to make a statement about this application before the board enters deliberation? Thank you.
Okay. Ray Roche, 64 Forest Avenue. I'm going to discuss the three areas. I'm going to start with the generator. I don't think that generator should be on the front side, called front side of Forest. Because when I look at that side now, I see two fences, one of which was just put up by these people, which has a 6-inch gap, which looks like hell. So when they say it looks good, that it has good curb appeal, it doesn't. And then, in addition to that, they have a storage cabinet in front of their fence. And now they want to add this eyesore because it's on the side. It's out of sight, out of mind for him, because his real entrance is on Harrison. Cars are parked there, the address is there. Any common person, myself included, would say that's the front of the house. But the law says the Forest side is the front. It's not, it's the side. And I don't need fumes and noise coming out on Forest Avenue. We already have a shed, and we also have an ugly fence. Okay, that's number one. And not only that, it's too close to the sidewalk. So when it's operating, it can affect the people walking on the sidewalk. Move it. If you have to have it, and they haven't had it leak for the last 2 years since they put it in, then move it to the backyard. And if that means the backyard is somehow inconvenienced, well, put it there. Okay, that's it for the generator. As far as the backyard's concerned, I'll get to the alleyway in a minute. But the backyard is already in non-compliance and has been for 2.25 years. That's extended violation. And that happened because the town made a mistake. What mistake did they make? Back then, when you approved the zoning for this previous job, there was no mention whatsoever of the violation. And that's a material violation. The limit is 15%. You're almost at 30, which you could do the math. You're at 93% over already. And then they're asking to go to 128%. 118% over. When is enough enough? Okay? In addition to that, they've created what I call a Las Vegas backyard. You're putting another TV in. You already have one on the side of the house. That 60-inch baby that's on the side of the house is only 15 feet from my neighbor's kitchen. So he can eat and listen to the Giants game. Not that he has a choice. Okay? And now you're going to add another TV on the same line, a little further down. It's going to be a racket. I can remember in the summer, 1:30 in the morning, the parties go on, okay? I've been nice, I haven't called the police, but I'm getting tired of this. On Halloween, we had another party. Didn't go to 11, but it was a nice and loud one, okay? But this is insane. Every time they have a party, they go bananas, okay? Because they have a hot tub that takes 8 people. I mean, this is Las Vegas. You're going to put a bar in, and then you're going to have a TV with speakers, plus a huge TV right over here on the outside of the house already. That's enough. I mean, that really is ridiculous. Okay? And then as far as that little alleyway where they want to expand the porch, once you do that, that loud TV that's already there, that sound is going to permeate and bounce off of that and make it even worse for the neighbors. Okay? This is ridiculous. Okay? When is enough enough? You're already at 93% over. Do you have to hit 100? Well, you will. You'll be at 118. I mean, I can't believe you missed it. In fact, I have a question for the lawyer here. Town lawyer, right? No?
Zoning board lawyer.
Say again?
Zoning board lawyer.
Board lawyer. Okay, I have a question for the board lawyer. What are you going to do to fix the error that occurred 2.25 years ago? Okay?
It's not a question for me, sir,
Oh, it's not a question for you? Oh, why not?
because it's not within my jurisdiction or purview.
Who's it? Well, then, yeah, help me out. Who's going to make that decision?
Sir, I have no idea what you're speaking of, what violation you're talking of. This is the
All right.
first I've heard of it.
All right.
This is not, sir, it's your opportunity to talk about the application, not to question me, please. I mean, I don't know what you're talking about.
All right.
And I'm not.
I'll state it again. Okay? When you send out this notice, any layperson reading it looks at the second exception that you mentioned and says, we're already in violation. It's 15% versus 29. How did that happen? All right? That's simple enough. And so what do? I go and I get a copy of your approvals that your town did back then, using the Open Public Record Act. And I examine them, and I don't see any mention whatsoever of this variance that was even addressed. And then I met with your zoning official, and she agreed. It's not there. That's a mistake, okay? Hopefully that makes it easy for you to understand. That's a mistake.
I beg your pardon.
Okay?
You're not going to sit here and insult me.
All right. I'm just saying, hopefully that clarifies it for you.
I was not the attorney at the time.
Never said
And
you
I
were.
have no knowledge of what you were speaking of.
Okay, all right.
And
Maybe
for-
you can help.
I was going to say, I can certainly help you. That application never came to this board. I've been on this board for over 22 years. So I would know. That was approved by the zoning officer for the town. My suggestion would be if there's a concern, it would have to be addressed with the town, either the town attorney or the town council, because he would be an employee of theirs if that was a mistake that was made. We often get applications in where the existing coverage exceeds the 15%. And whether it's exceeded it since 1956 when we came up with zoning, or someone built it last year and no one knew about it, that's kind of how they get to us. So in this particular case, we take it into consideration when we look at it and say, you want to go, you're 15, you're already at 30 walking in the door with this application, you want to go to 40-something, that's what we as a board will consider before we approve anything.
So you don't know how it happened?
We don't know how it happened. I mean, you obviously
Oh, but
have
you
done
can
some
fix it
research.
now, though. But you can fix it now.
This board can.
Right, the board can, right? Okay.
This board can go back as
I
far
take
as the
solace in that.
application.
I take solace in that. Thank you.
We're moving in the
Okay,
direction.
those are my comments. Okay? Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Paul. Typically,
Can I ask or not a question statement?
you can,
Wait. I'll let them.
do you want anybody else to make a statement first?
I don't really care. I'll speak when I want to speak. If someone wants to go or he wants to talk, he can go. No, I'll leave. I just had. I wasn't gonna talk, but that actually made me, that last person made me speak. Paul Petrangeli, Verona, New Jersey. Okay, I know the house. I actually, in my opinion, I think there is curb appeal. I think the black wrought iron fence, 5 foot all the way around with the arborvitae's, looks awesome from the side. Whatever size the fence is, excuse me, sir, I'm talking, please don't interrupt. As you walk down the sidewalk on Forest Avenue, the Spina's house is actually elevated around 8 to 9 feet. If you look at the topography map of the sidewalk to where their house is. So the sidewalk and the generator, no fumes, anything comes out of the generator. Basically, it just sounded like disgruntled. And I think a generator is very important. I have a generator. I have 3 TVs at my house that I did not need a variance for. They sit on my home, which just like Mr. Spina's home is 15 feet from his property line, and the TV sits on my house, which is allowed. I do not have a swim spa, I have a baby pool, but if people want to call it Vegas, they can. But I have 3 TVs, a huge deck, and everything. So that should not be, you guys, I don't know. It just shouldn't be taken into effect of what somebody's backyard is, what they're doing there. The noise and everything, if you have a problem with the noise, you call the police, not the zoning department. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to make us? Please come forward.
Mary Ann Allen, Forest Ave.
That comes off if you just take it off and hold it in your hands. It's easier.
So Mary Ann Allen, Forest Ave. Good evening and thank you for your time. I'm speaking right into it. Can you not hear me? I don't think it's on. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, please. I appreciate it.
Okay. I would like to start with about a letter that was put into the mailboxes yesterday from the owners of 95 Harrison. Except for mine, because I believe I was left out because they already knew that I would be a no vote. I just want to refer to a few lines. One line says, if you think that our recent outdoor renovations have been an improvement to the aesthetics of the neighborhood, well, part of that recent outdoor renovation, which has already been spoken about, consisted of a TV and a hot tub, so I don't know how that is considered an improvement to the aesthetics of the neighborhood. And this really affects me. I'll get to that. The proposed changes will not cause any significant disruption or harm to the surrounding properties. There was harm done to my property with the last construction, but I'm going to keep the comments to the present. Efforts to ensure that their project will be in harmony with the existing homes and that it aligns with the best interests of the community and will have no detrimental effect on our neighborhood. How is a second TV, a bar, and extending their patio in the best interest of the community? my issues with this proposed variance. After adding a patio and the first TV with additional speakers in the last renovation, in between our two houses, which I guess they call their backyard, but it's more like an alleyway, in between our two houses with the TV on their house facing my patio and yard in very close proximity. The sound from the TV and the parties reverberates throughout my yard and home. 95 Harrison's party and TV watching schedule now dictate when I can and cannot use my yard. When the TV is on at night, my yard is lit up like a stadium. I can't imagine what it would be like with a second proposed TV, which from the plans also looks like it's going to be facing my yard also. So now I'm going to have two TVs facing my patio. Extending the patio, I think, would only make matters worse and sounds louder. And then I wonder if and when the time comes, if I were to sell my home, it worries me that the party complex so close next door may likely give potential buyers second thoughts when seeing that. As the recent changes have, and if the proposed variances are approved, compounding that with even more noise, I believe this will only amplify what has become a substantial detriment to my quality of life in my own home. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
My name is Doug Allen. That was my wife, Mary Ann. We live next door on Forest. And we've been suffering with problems that we've faced as a result of all this construction since it started. In the very beginning, Mrs. Spina mentioned taking out dead trees. Well, there were about between 4 and 6 giant oak trees, very large, old-growth oak trees. All have been removed now. There's none left in their yard. There's one maple tree in the Forest Avenue side, but all the stuff on the Harrison side has been removed from the yard. No questions asked. Nobody, I never saw any permits. I never saw any questions. I never saw anything about, is it okay to take out all these trees? But they're gone now, so there's no bringing them back. I've sat there, watched these televisions get put up, watched the construction company show up the first couple of days, and in the first couple of days, they brought their equipment in and drove right into my fence and broke the corner post on my fence. Then they tried to cover it up. They put some gravel there, covered it up all around the base that was all cracked below ground. Tried to just say that didn't happen. And I said, baloney. And the workers came out with rakes and they raked back the stuff, and sure enough, there it was, broken. Then they tried to say, oh, we'll give you $80 to buy the new fence posts, because they said they couldn't buy the parts. So $80. You think you can get a quarter post replaced for $80 in a fence? No, you can't. I guarantee you can't. So
Did you fix your fence? Is your fence fixed?
the fence is repaired, not fixed. Never back the way it was originally, never.
Hey, Doug, what about when they broke the gas line?
That's another thing. While they were doing the construction, they had to dig a line out.
That was a classic.
My wife had to call PSE&G because we smelled gas. There was a bunch of Mexicans down in a hole that came out. Well, I'm just telling you.
No, it doesn't matter what the person was. There were people in the hole.
There were people in the hole. The people came out of the hole coughing, choking, speaking Spanish. That's all they spoke.
This is my, all right, I'm sorry. If you would, keep it public.
Absolutely, absolutely. But I'm just telling you who we saw, so whatever.
You don't want that to be on the public record.
That's fine.
You sure?
I'm I do not want that to go. It doesn't have, we don't have to say who they were. I don't care. There were people in a hole, came out coughing. My wife called PSE&G. They told us there was a leak. They repaired the leak. And then somebody from this crew replaced the sidewalk, and it's the only section of the sidewalks where the sidewalk goes like this. Well, their section, like 3 sections of the sidewalk are crooked. So you look down there and you're like, really? I never saw a sidewalk replaced like that in my life, but it doesn't really matter. Some of these were obvious. They broke my fence. Okay, the drain pipe. And they tried to put the deck for their hot tub right up against my fence. It was on my fence. And I had to come to the guys and tell them, hey, that's not supposed to be on my fence. It's got to go so far from your property line. So why is it on my fence? It was actually touching it. And then they moved it.
How long have you lived in it?
20 years. Never had a problem with a neighbor before this. That's all I did.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Catherine O'Toole, just a couple of questions here. I don't understand why we're having this meeting, because in order to get variance. Oh, boy.
I guess I don't know what we're doing here, because the ordinances are a place for the good of the all, right? Variances, as I understand it, have to be for a hardship case or for the betterment of the community. And we're here telling you that's not the case. There's so much going on there. Do you mind if I talk? Okay. We've been very accommodating. The parties are very loud, so much so that I have to go into my basement to sleep. We haven't said anything prior because that's who we are. We've been instructed otherwise now. But the quality of life for those in the immediate circle has deteriorated, something dramatically. There's been no consideration, none given to us. I just don't understand if the criteria for which a variance is granted is hardship over the betterment of the community. What are we doing here? Who's the betterment for?
You're 100% correct, and that's essentially why we're here. This board exists to take the requirements that the community has set up and agreed to and consider the individual application of those requirements to a particular property, and to hear from the applicants and to hear from what could best be described as the objectors. And this board, when we close public participation, this board will deliberate the merits of each of these 3 variances as to whether they should be approved, modified, or denied.
Thank you for that. I guess I would just like to add that I think we're entitled to enjoyment of our own places too. And it's been diminished. I just want to say that again. I'm a big gardener. I like to spend a lot of time in the garden. And sometimes it's too loud. I think beautification is subjective, I just do. And I too am worried about future buyers of my own home, seeing a vast display of TVs and hot tubs and across the street. That'll give them pause. It would give me pause. And I'm just asking for consideration of those, for quality of life and fairness. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to make another comment.
We're going to stop them at 3, so
I can't hear you.
I said we're going to cut you off at 3.
Okay. All right, I just heard you say that the purpose of this meeting is to pass on the 3 variances, and only the 3 variances? Am I correct in understanding?
Yes.
Which means you're not going to address the root issue, the root cause I mentioned to you. That's been outstanding for 240 years. Is that correct?
That's not.
So you're going to gloss over that one?
We're not glossing over anything.
Okay,
It's
you're not
not in our,
sweeping it under the rug either?
it's not in our jurisdiction. We're not
Okay.
sweeping, we're not doing anything.
Okay, but you're not addressing the root cause?
We've been presented
Okay.
with 3
That's all I have to know.
variances.
Thank you.
You dropped your paper.
Oh, it's okay, it's my name.
For this application, Paul.
Yes, that's it. Paul Petrangeli, Verona. I just kind of had a question. The last applicant we had, there was 15 to 30 something percent, and not one person got up and spoke, and their yard was half the size. So with the coverage, with the amount of 15 to 30, that's all I think of. You know, same applicant, same numbers as last, but a bigger lot. Thank you.
Come on, there's 3 people out there that haven't gotten up yet.
I would like to say something about quality of life, coming home and relaxing. I don't mind Saturdays, Sundays, having party once in a while. That's what I've done with my kids, very important. But we can't change our backyards to the bars, okay? If you want to go to the bar and drink, you can go to the bar, okay? There are certain standards for home living, all right? I come home, I turn on TV, I want to rest. I don't want to deal with the neighbors and 2 TVs, a generator. I agree with your point, but it's just affecting me. I come home to rest. I work very hard and just want to make sure that my family is resting as well. So I don't have to worry about getting up at 4:30 in the morning, going to work and dealing because my neighbor is doing the party or just not having generating on because it's using for not really weather, but something else. I shouldn't be concerned about it. And knocking to his door and he's using because he's saving his money. Okay, so I pay taxes like everyone here. I maybe don't have enough money to have this construction done, but I keep my house as neat as possible and work very hard for it. That doesn't mean I have to move out because somebody else is having money and doing all of this stuff. I don't mind you have 3 TVs. Go ahead. If your neighbors are happy with it and they can approve it, but I don't think so I would. But have fun, okay? If they're not fun, that means you're making their life miserable. So thank you so much, and I hope you acknowledge this.
Thank you, Ms. Karpinski. I do the talking. Okay.
May we respond quickly?
That would be fine. You will respond, and then we will close the public portion of the meeting.
You want to start?
I just quickly want to say that the term party, the word party has been thrown out more than like I can even count. So, yes.
Fortunately for the objectors, they didn't have to swear under oath, otherwise there'd be a lot of perjurers here tonight.
I just want to say that they're painting a picture that is very false of our family. We have 2 small kids. I assure you, we are not having parties every night as they are suggesting. We have probably used the TV 5 times since we've gotten it, and
Played the speakers twice.
we rarely.
We did not have a party on Halloween, so that was a
We
lie.
did not have a party on Halloween. And I just feel the need to clarify because I think there's a lot of falseness going on and painting a picture that is false. And it's based on a disgruntled neighbor.
The oak tree came out because they were dead. You could ask Mr. Allen, they had an oak tree fall on their house last year, so ask them how that went.
And the trees that we did remove in our backyard were dead. And we've replaced it by, I don't even know how many more trees.
We also did not want to incur the cost of putting a fence in the backyard. We were forced to because of lack of cooperation from the Allens.
Never asked for cooperation.
And if, I really don't want to, you guys, I really respect your time, your service, but if you're going to consider the objectors, I have to take the time to give you the history of why they're here today, speaking out against us. They're not here with the community's best interest at heart. They're here simply as a vendetta against us because the Allens were ripped off by a crooked tree vendor 8 years ago. Over $250. They've hated us since. They've been out to get us since. I think you all are aware how many times they've called on us to try to get stop orders during construction. They've been nothing but harassing. I actually have a police report on file. Filed the police report of harassment. It's on file with the Verona Police Department. So take what they say with a grain of salt. They're not here with the true best interests of the community and the township. They're here to just make us suffer and try to hurt us. That's the only reason why they're here.
And I will say that we have never, the police have never visited our home to.
Not one noise complaint at our
To
house.
get a noise, yeah, to answer to a noise. So.
Thank you. Okay, I am going to close the public portion of the meeting. We certainly have more than enough information to consider in our 3 variances, which we will consider in the typical municipal land use process that we do. So, is there anyone who would like to start with one of these variances? And for instance, if we start with the generator, all right, the generator is 30 feet 6 inches from the property line. It's supposed to be 45. It's in the front yard. It's a corner property. There are 2 front yards. So it's a permitted location. It has to be 5 feet from a window. That'll have to be by building code. Is there an issue or a concern or a favor for having the generator where it is?
Mr. Chairman, I'll start that discussion because I think it's one of the easier ones for me. Full disclosure, you have someone sitting on the board who owns a corner property. And if I sneeze out my window, I have to come before this board to do just about anything. So, and I just want to let the speakers know I have a certain empathy for that. The generator issue, and the concept, I know it's of 2 front yards or 2 side yards, is totally ridiculous, but we have to live with that. It's in the municipal land use law, and Mr. Massera, feel free to contradict me if I said anything that's not correct so far. The generator is something that I think basically it's not in operation on a continual basis. It's only there for a backup situation. It gets tested, I believe, once or twice a month. They've already agreed to set the hours, during the daytime so it won't disrupt anybody's, course, style of living. So the generator, it's still, well, as is my habit, I do drive in the front of the properties. In fact, people look at me and they think I'm some sort of a roving, casing them to rob their house or something. But I do make it my business, at least to walk as much as I can without getting arrested on the properties. To the gentleman's point over here, it is a slow property. Where they want to put the generator, if they properly, landscape it, I don't think it will be an eyesore. It is a protection. Somebody raised the point, can it be directed to a specific appliance? I mean, that's not something that this board, can take into effect. We have numerous, with all of the storms that we've had recently, I'm sure we've had a big uptick in people looking to put generators in. It's an expense. I wish I could afford to do it. If I tried to do it, I'd have to go to a board in another town because they wouldn't allow me to get the variance before this one. So the generator, I don't think it should be as big a concern to the surrounding people as a noise issue. It's not something I think that in hearing the objectors, noise, quality of life, aesthetics, I really think I would be inclined to look favorably on the generator, variance. So I'll throw it open to the other members to just discuss that.
Anybody feelings on the generator variance? Up, down? So I'm in agreement with everything Mr. Ryan said. I just want to make sure that it is conditioned that it would be heavily screened with native landscaping.
Okay. If everybody's good with the generator, part A, let's go down to C. Patios located within 5 feet of a property line. The 222 square feet patio is proposed along the side yard with a 1 foot setback to the side yard property line. I think if I've been consistent on the previous ones and this one, I am not in favor of having a patio within 5 feet of the property line. You need that space for drainage, and you need that space to be a buffer between you and the neighbors. So I would not be in favor of the variance for the 5 foot patio. I would like to see it brought back to 5 feet distance from the property line. Others?
Yeah, well, I'll say, first of all, I mean, this is just a sad situation. It seems like you guys are in. I mean, whatever is happening, it's not neighbors being neighborly, and I'm sure there's 3 sides to the truth here. And honestly, I mean, it is very sad. I do appreciate when neighbors provide feedback on the applications, whether it's for it or after. But I do not appreciate being yelled out, derogatory language, rude to the, board members and other members up on the dais. That really is unacceptable. And this is also the group that you're trying to convince to sway one way or another. So please keep that in mind in the future. Having said that, in regard to specifically the 5 feet on the property line, it seems, or going down to basically 1 foot to the property line, it seems like it'll make a bad situation even worse. And there is the drainage, there's the noise, there's a lot of reasons why I would not be in favor of it.
I feel, okay. Among many responsibilities that we have here is, I think, to make the community, to see how variances affect people that are in the community. And that is probably one of the reasons why I suggested, for example, in the first application, that there be shrubbery in front, just so that the people who were in the neighborhood would be looking not at a fence and at people's property, but rather at landscaping and something that was pleasant to look at. I think there's so much here that is affecting neighbors in a negative way that I just worry about all of these variances and voting on all of the variances. And I'm just wondering if maybe there are other issues that have to be rectified before we even can vote on this. But I know we have to vote on it this evening, but I have very strong feelings about the community and the community coming together and living in a peaceful way over in that area. I know that area very well. And I just wonder if we should not suggest to the applicant that they all make peace before they come back again and we can vote on it, but I don't think that's going to happen. But those are my feelings right now. It's I'm very saddened by the lack of understanding between the two groups.
Yeah, no, I mean, I understand. I'm hearing all the points, related to the current request. 1 foot is, a tough predicament only because then it creates, other conditions. However, I am seeing, the struggle that they're facing with the usability behind the basement stairs. And I think I would have been a little bit more inclined to either split the difference or just add a little bit more behind the stair area, for a variety of reasons. Again, not comfortable with the 1 foot space, but I would have been a little bit more comfortable with at least granting a little bit of extension, 1 foot or 2, just for, the feasibility of movement in and around that area, at least around the stairs, considering, what you're trying to do with that area. But that's just where I stood with that. 1 foot is too much. Drop something in there and it just immediately falls into the neighbor's yard and all that stuff. But that's where I was at there.
Yeah, I'm sort of on the same side as you. Where that stairs are, it does, it's just a shame how, you have to use your setbacks in the other areas, so you have to push back as far as it did. So at the side yard, it's your rear yard at 10 feet or 13. So, well, I didn't like the idea of the 5 feet, so maybe just like really around that stair area there, so this way you can have a usable passage at that spot. Other than that, I think we do need to have some that buffer for drainage, et cetera, that you need in this location.
So are we in a general belief that we can come up with a compromise number there between 1 and 5?
I mean, I'd either be okay splitting the difference around the board, or, if we're kind of at a tie across the board, I mean, I don't know if there's an opportunity to, give them at least the area, not the 1 foot, but something else around, the stairs. I mean, I'm good with, at least on my end, that's the stairs are what's driving me. It's either splitting the difference all around, or at least if it's too hard pressed with my colleagues across the table, then I would be, open for discussion with at least around the stairs. Because kids and ankles and all that jazz, it's bad juju.
Paul, can you work on those numbers?
Yeah.
Throw out something for us?
Sorry, Paul.
Right now, it looks like they have about 4 feet from the stairs and to the patio. And that's, you want it to be at least 5 feet, that you can have a chance to walk around it.
Yeah.
Protractor. That's pretty good. You have 4 feet there. Room for some. I think we can easily go around the stair. We can get like 5 feet around that stair. I think that's like a compromise that we can do at that location, and there's going to make it more hassle. Right now, like you said, we're at 3. Yeah, at least an additional feet for that area. We could chamfer it over and back into it, get something nice in that area that they would have. Yeah.
We don't have drainage from I don't want to say that it wouldn't work for drainage, but I'm more comfortable with 3 feet of the gravel buffer. Better than I was.
Is that where we are, Paul?
I think so,
Yeah. Would that be acceptable to you?
I didn't quite understand exactly how you were saying do an extension just by the steps. Is that not across the whole patio? I mean, if we only extended the patio 2 feet and left a 3-foot buffer instead of 5, is that acceptable to the board?
The length of the patio?
Yeah, the length of the patio. And then you'd have 3 feet to do drainage and plant and make it work.
I need somebody to speak from a compromise position.
Let's see.
Yeah. I mean, that was my compromise with all of us.
Yeah.
I'm fine with it across the board, but if there needs to be compromise, that would be my compromise.
Yeah, we have to describe it so our attorney can.
What I was getting at was, so if you're going from Forest, that's edge of the patio.
Correct.
At that area, you would extend the patio out at additional footage. And then once you get over to where the edge of the stairs were, that's where you chamfer it back towards where the existing patio is. So that this way, at that point, walking around, you would have that type of distance to clear. Does that make sense?
Forest.
Yeah. So if you extend this.
Extend it 2 feet?
Yeah.
So that it's 3 feet off the property line from Forest, and it extends to the stairway.
And then you chamfer it back.
And then chamfer it back toward the.
Yeah.
So.
Does that make sense? Yeah. Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah, that's same here, but I'm just trying to. Yeah.
Okay.
A little bit of everything.
Are we all good with that? Board? Okay.
For the new section. Yeah.
It appears the board is all in agreement as what an acceptable side yard setback could be along that fence. The patio would start at the Forest Avenue side. It would be 3 feet from the property line. That 3 feet would continue to a point opposite the end of the stairs, at which point it would angle in and be 5 feet. That would allow walking past the stairs. The other equipment and getting back safely to a wide enough area to cross.
After talking to the Spinas, we'd like to, if the board would still just consider 2 feet straight across with a 3-foot setback.
If that's what you want to stick with.
That's what we want to stick with.
I just think it's gonna look, it's such a, 2 feet is not very big, so I think it's just going to look unfinished. As you walk back there, I think it's almost gonna look like it's uneven or.
Patio furniture is on the further side, which we currently don't have room for, with the current, patio space, so the extension of one side and not all the way across doesn't really.
All right, so at this point, the applicant wants to continue, the applicant is willing to make it a 3 foot off the property line, the length of that patio. Okay. All right, folks, how about maximum aggregate area covered by accessory structures in the yard, which is supposed to be 15, is currently, or is proposed to be 32.7. Are there any strong feelings one way or the other? Full disclosure, one of the properties I own in Verona is a corner property, and we often have issues like these. However, in this particular case, this property is twice the square footage of the zone, what it's zoned for, which essentially makes all of the percentage calculations twice what would normally occur in that zone. So if the property were sized as the zone is, we would be looking at 75%. Luckily, it's a giant lot. It's a very big lot in this area. It's one of the considerations we give a property because of the corner lot. So I'm looking for a sense of any, all, none. What are we looking at in maximum aggregate area coverage?
I'll say, normally, I'm probably one of the more lenient board members when it comes to residential properties, but given that so many people have spoken out, I can't see moving forward to make the, a bad situation worse. So I would not vote in favor of it.
Okay. Kevin?
I sort of tend to follow up on what Paul just said. And I'm trying to wrap my head around what's already, there is a patio already there, and with the TV stand and the whole, so this is looking for additional space, I guess, for, and I just think the way the lot is configured, unfortunately, where they want to do it does intrude on very close to the neighbor's property. And so I would be inclined not to approve that.
Kevin, we're talking about the bar area, off the deck. That's what we're referring to in this instance. And
Mr.
the
Chairman,
TV stand.
if the board could keep in mind that the applicant has the burden to show that the benefits outweigh any detriments, and also there's a negative criteria that variances can be granted without substantial detriment to the public good or to the zone plan. That's a generalized statements, but you need to please weigh that in your mind when you vote on these variances.
All right.
You know, there are criteria in the municipal land use law.
Yeah, so I want to talk about some of the individual ones. For instance, the TV stand. So the bottom of the TV is at 217. The top of the fence is at 215. So this is already 2 feet up above the rear fence. And then it's going to go up to 220. So it's going to be, when it's done, you're 5 feet over the fence. And that's because we got that elevated deck area for the spa. So right at this point, it's in clear view of the neighbors. It's up above. And then now you take the bar. The bar on top of that deck is another 3 feet. So you're taking that from the 213, so you're bringing that at 217, which again, now you're 2 feet over the fence with the height of the bar. So right there in those two spots there, it's right away, everything that we've been talking about with convenience, neighborly, right off the bat, that's something that's going to be visible for everybody at that point.
We do have tall trees there, though.
None of those items will be visible.
The trees are taller than.
I like that. Out either way. From what I'm seeing. I don't know, when I see it like that and you see the dimensions, trees die, it's happened, so I mean, there's things that are like right in front of me that I have a hard time looking around.
Is that a sense of the board? That's difficult.
I missed that, I'm sorry.
The, what's listed as the maximum aggregate area, 15% all the way up to 32.7% with the various items. And Paul just went through a few of the items that actually extend above beyond the fence that surrounds the property. Bill, you're shaking your head.
I just find conflict with it. I mean, I think it's the utilization, I guess, of the TV stand that creates conflict. I think, in other circumstances, distance-wise, from the adjacent properties, that isn't an issue. I think they're making the best utilization of the poor location of the property on the corner unit. It's, percentage of use, it's not necessarily reflected given the location of the property itself. I mean, they're incredibly constrained on one side of the property, using the best they can on the other, and, quite ineffective use on the other sides of the house, and given, the flow through on Forest, especially on Saturday mornings for baseball, is not all that great. So it's not like they're going to use that side of the house as well. So, I mean, again, it's you see TV stand, and I guess that creates a conflict. Understanding what Paul said, that lends to some consternation in the perception of sound is whatever, but I am not necessarily on the against side on this one. I think that they're making the best of the circumstances of the property that they have, given the location where it is. So that's where I'm at.
Well, I mean, we're talking about the maximum aggregate covered. I just want to make sure I'm looking at the right variance here, okay? I do think that's I think that's their strongest point. I mean, when do you get to the point where you have to consider that what is going to be a good for their property does have a significant bad effect on the properties immediately near it. And as council just pointed out, the land use law is in there, and you have to give a really compelling reason to me why you should grant a variance to what the land use law calls for, and I really don't see it in this case. I don't know whether that's in compliance. You've been talking there on that end.
The detriments outweigh.
Yeah, I think they outweigh the benefits.
All right. Are we at a point where we want to vote? And if we do we want to move to separate these issues and vote on each variance individually?
I would prefer to do that, but that's on, yeah.
It'll require 3 roll call votes.
Yeah, but just to make that remark, I mean, because you're bringing up the impervious coverage, just to make note on that. You see the listing of what that impervious coverage has, right, includes. We're talking, you're listing barbecue, you're listing an extensive driveway, you're listing things like front walk and again, you guys having corner lots know that you're, especially with the location of this building, you're far reaching into that. So it's a lot to go into impervious coverage when you're looking at these numbers. That's all. That's
what we do.
I know. I'm just factoring that into it, like, and that's what goes into.
Well, were you in favor of granting that?
Again, I still am. I'm just saying, like, I was, and it just makes it seem like the whole thing is paved. That's all.
I just think they are 3 distinct issues in my mind.
Yeah, I know. And I know we're going to look at each one separately, but that's.
I have a question for Mr. Macera. In this case, the generator is additional impervious coverage, and considering the impervious is already above the threshold, can we separate those variances? Can the board separate those variances? Can they approve the generator? It's 12.5 square feet of accessory coverage, not impervious, excuse me. And they're already over the 15% threshold existing, so they will be. Yeah. Excuse me, I'm sorry, everyone.
Good question. Good question. Sorry.
Okay, back to where I was. If we move, let's say, variance for the required minimum front yard setback of 45 feet for the generator, which is, we'll move it to 30 feet 6 inches. And I would entertain a motion to approve that with the condition that it be landscaped and that the hours of testing be set for daytime, 10 to 3.
Mr. Chair, would you also add the construction code officials' comments regarding 5 feet from the window?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve as noted with the stipulated conditions.
I'll second it.
Kevin, if we may have a roll call vote.
Dr. Reese?
Yes.
Dr. Cortez?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Mathewson?
Yes.
Vice Chair Weston?
Yes.
Chair McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, just to clarify, if in fact, I think the representation was it's not within 5 feet of the window, but if in fact the construction code official determines that it is, they would have to come back for approval. It would not be just to move approval for location.
Okay, let's take item, what I call item B.
The maximum aggregate area covered by the accessory structures in the yard is 15%. Would entertain a motion to approve the 32.7% requested. And, yep, that's it.
So that would include,
So that would include everything that's on the plan and approving accessories in the yard.
I don't know if we can break it down any smaller.
Yeah.
If that's where you're headed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay. And do we have a second? Can't vote without a second, even if you're not going to vote. Died for lack of a second? Died for lack of a second. Okay. Is there a replacement motion?
I will make a motion to deny, item B, the variance for the aggregate coverage.
All right, motion has changed to a motion to deny the extended variance for maximum aggregate area covered. Do we have a second for that motion?
I'll second that motion. Wait, say it again? Is it
The opposite of the motion you made.
oh, no, sorry.
I'll second it, just to get, move things along here.
Thank you. Or move on. Okay. It's a motion to deny, we don't need any conditions. So we can call the roll.
Dr. Reese?
A motion to deny.
Motion to deny, so a yes vote.
Yes.
is
Yes
a
vote,
vote
yes.
to deny.
Mr. Tully? Oh, sorry. Mr. Cortez?
No.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Mathewson?
Yes.
Vice Chair Weston?
Yes.
Chair McGinley?
Yes. By my vote, by my count, that motion has passed to deny. Leaves us item, what I call item C, the patio, which we have amended to reflect 3 feet from the property line.
And the applicant has agreed to shorten that, the, so we should,
No, they wanted to go all the way across.
3 feet all the way across now. That's what the applicant wants.
I will make the motion to approve.
Thank you.
I'll second that motion.
All right, that's moving better. If we may have a roll call vote on that.
Dr. Reese?
no.
Dr. Cortez?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Mathewson?
Yes.
Vice Chair Weston?
No.
Chair McGinley?
No, which is a tie vote, and in the event of a tie vote, it's a no vote.
That's correct.
It fails. Okay, so by my record, by my collection here, the generator variance has been approved. The other variances requested have not been approved. Counselor, we'll have a resolution to memorialize this at our next meeting.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Make a motion to adjourn. Is there any room to recess? any reason to go into executive session?
Not that I'm aware of, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, then I accept the motion to adjourn at 11:13.
Yes.
Hold on to 1:10. Shoot.
You're welcome.